Thumbs up. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Waterloo Council meeting of Monday, June 26, 2017, evening edition. Can I have disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof from Council? Seeing none, but just let people know, Councillor Dan Freeman did declare on item 16A earlier today. Conflict. Next up is our moment of reflection. At the beginning of this council meeting, we pause to think about the needs of our community. May we show wisdom and compassion in all our decisions. First up is the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators Awards with Brad Witzel and Janice Baker coming here to give us a little interesting award.
So good evening, Mayor, members of Council, senior staff, and members of the public in attendance. It is my pleasure to be here tonight introducing Janice Baker from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, or CAMA for short, who has joined us this evening to formally present Waterloo with the Willis Award for Innovation for our submission, Waterloo's own Pickup Hub. Before I turn it over to Janice, I would first like to provide a high-level overview of our submission and recognize some of the key project team members who are also with us in attendance this evening. On May 31st, at the annual CAMA conference and awards ceremony, Waterloo was announced as the 2017 recipient of the prestigious Willis Award for Innovation, which is awarded annually in recognition of Jack Willis for programs or services that demonstrate exceptional innovation. Waterloo leveraged newly developed local technology to address a gap in our sports programming. Through the utilization of technology and innovation, we were able to improve customer service for our drop-in sports programs utilizing online registration service through technology. Pickup Hub allows players to register online to participate in our drop-in sports program, with access to Pickup Hub being provided via a link on our website. So, as previously mentioned, this project was made possible through collaboration with local entrepreneurs Pickup Hub Inc. And in attendance with us tonight are the co-founders of Pickup Hub, Alex Lishner and Eric Boulay, who also happen to be avid drop-in soccer participants. Additionally, from the City of Waterloo team, Jim Zuber, Supervisor, Leisure and Active Living, and Lita Campbell, Manager, Business Services Programming. Thank you all for being here tonight, and congratulations on winning this prestigious award. We look forward to the ongoing success of Waterloo's own Pickup Hub, and I know there's much more to come on this exciting program as we continue to grow the platform. I will now turn it over to Janice, who will continue the presentation. Thank you and welcome, Janice.
Thank you very much, Brad, and good evening, Mayor Jaworski, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to represent the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators this evening to present the City of Waterloo with the CAMA Willis Award for Innovation. I am Janice Baker, the City Manager and CAO for the City of Mississauga, and also this year proud to be CAMA's President and the Board Representative for Ontario. It was a great pleasure to have Mayor Jaworski, Tim, Mark, Keshwar, and Jim in attendance at the CAMA conference in Gatineau to accept this award. Each year, CAMA recognizes the value of excellence and professionalism in municipal administration through our annual awards program. Awards are presented to local governments and their chief administrators in recognition of their creative and successful programs, projects, and services. The annual program has been designed to encourage excellence in the art of professional municipal administration. Success stories are circulated widely to provide CAMA members and other local government managers with new ideas which may prove useful for implementation in their municipalities. Because Canada has a unique mixture of small and large communities, awards are granted according to population, in 3 population categories: under 20,000, between 20,001 and 100,000, and for those over 100,000. We were pleased to receive a total of 41 award nominations this year, which were all of excellent quality. The following evaluation criteria were used by the committee when reviewing the submissions. The extent that the program, project, or service involves innovation, creativity, and exemplifies a significant change. Its impact on the profession of municipal administration. The potential to enhance the practices of administrators elsewhere and the degree of their transferability to other local governments. The impact on the municipality and on the organization, even if the innovation itself may not be new to the profession, and the sustainability of the results, their long-lasting positive measurable effects on the success of the organization. The Willis Award is in recognition of Jack Willis for his contribution to our association. The awards committee selects one nomination in each population category for a project that demonstrates exceptional innovation and meritorious initiative. And, as has already been mentioned, this year's winner of the Willis Award for Innovation for a municipality with a population between 20,000 and 100,000 is the City of Waterloo for your Pickup Hub. And I'm pleased to present a short video that, of course, those of you in attendance would have seen at the luncheon.
Congratulations to the City of Waterloo, Ontario, winner of the 2017 CAMA Willis Award for Innovation in the 20,001 to 100,000 population category for Pickup Hub, an online platform that allows people to participate in team sports on a game-by-game basis, while taking care of everything from payment and waivers to team organization. Waterloo leveraged newly developed local technology to address a gap in sports service delivery. Historically, sports fans have had two options for participating in municipally run sports. Either join community adult recreation leagues or attend a pre-scheduled drop-in program. Leagues can limit participation due to time commitments and cost. Drop-in programs are limited to specific time frames and can experience too many or too few participants. Pickup Hub allows players to register online to play in drop-in sports programs. Access to Pickup Hub is provided via a link on the city's website, which allows staff to set up and post games. Pickup Hub processes all online registrations and provides a monthly remittance to the city. Originally designed as an adult use program, Pickup Hub has been modified to allow for parent-controlled accounts that let them register their youth in sport. Participation in sports is up, and overall, approximately $15,000 was generated in new revenue in 2016. Congratulations to the City of Waterloo, Ontario, winner of the 2017 CAMA Willis Award for Innovation.
So we have a plaque to present, Mr. Mayor, and I'm sure your staff would love to have a picture.
Much, and thank you to staff. Congratulations, because I think for those who weren't here earlier, this is our third award of the day for the good work that goes on with staff and leadership of the City of Waterloo. Can be proud of our staff and the team we have going on here, recognizing innovative ways to better serve our citizens. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Kama. Wow, and with that, we're actually half done the meeting. There's only one item left. That's a great thing, yeah. I think we'll be out of here pretty early tonight. Next up is a formal public meeting. This is a formal public meeting to consider zoning bylaw amendment application Z1603, Muslim Association of Canada, 510 Herbsville Road, Waterloo. Any persons who want further notice of this application, including the passage of any bylaw, should sign the appropriate register in the binder located on the staff desk outside council chambers. Will the clerk please advise council of the method used to give notice of the meeting and the dates notice was given?
Notice was advertised in the Waterloo Chronicle on June 8, 2017, and mailed or emailed on June 13, 2017, to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject property, to public agencies, to all persons who signed in or spoke at the informal public meeting held on May 9, 2015, and to all persons who requested further notice.
Thank you. The planner will now provide a brief overview of the application. Welcome, Rita.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jaworski, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. This is a formal public meeting for 510 Herbsville Road, zoning bylaw amendment Z1603. The application has been submitted by the Muslim Association of Canada, represented here tonight by Tom Hardacre. The subject site is located on the east side of Herbsville Road, south of Laurelwood Drive. To the west, across Herbsville Road, are single detached residential dwellings fronting onto Wild Ginger Avenue and backing onto Herbsville Road. To the north is an industrial type use. Old Oak Park, a protected natural feature, is located to the east. And further to the east are single residential dwellings fronting onto Old Oak Drive. Finally, to the south is a large wooded lot containing a single detached dwelling. Further to the north, at the corner of Laurelwood Drive and Herbsville Road, is a high school, 2 commercial plazas, and retirement residences. This is a close-up of the subject site, which is accessible via Herbsville Road, a regional arterial road intended to carry large volumes of traffic on a daily basis. Grades vary on the site, with the highest elevations located at the northwest corner, sloping down towards the east and southeast. These are pictures of the subject site. The first one is a view from Herbsville Road. You can just see the detached garage there, but as you can see, most of the site is screened by a line of trees. The second picture is taken standing at the entrance of the site, looking at the single detached dwelling and detached garage on the site. In terms of the official plan, the southern portion of the subject site is designated low-density residential. This designation contemplates low-rise residential buildings and complementary uses, including spiritual uses, daycare centers, and schools. The northern portion of the subject site is designated open space core natural feature, which does not allow any development. Through zoning bylaw 1418, the subject site is historically zoned agriculture, which permits a farm and a single detached dwelling, but does not permit spiritual uses. Through their application, the applicant is requesting to rezone the northern portion of the subject site to Green 1 and the southern portion of the subject site to institutional. Within the institutional zone, in the short term, the applicant is proposing to use the existing single detached dwelling and garage for spiritual uses, and in the long term intends to develop a larger spiritual building. In processing this application, staff have undertaken substantial public consultation, including an informal public meeting, numerous emails, and other correspondence with concerned residents. An applicant-initiated open house was also held, and meetings with interested persons. Specific details of the public consultation process are summarized on page 4 and 5 of the staff report. Based on the public consultation and our review of the application, staff have identified the following planning issues related to this application. Number one, the protection of the existing natural features located on the subject site. Number two, any new building on the subject site will require to be connected to municipal sanitary services, as the site is currently serviced by a private septic system. Number three, a number of residents have felt that the proposed spiritual use would generate a lot of traffic. I would like to point out that the spiritual use within the existing dwelling and garage, given their size of less than 350 square meters, on a regional arterial road would not warrant a traffic impact study. Number four, noise concerns related to vehicles visiting the subject site and stationary noise associated with air conditioning units on a future building was also a concern to some residents. Number five, institutional zone permits a wide range of uses. Both staff and residents felt that some of the uses permitted by the institutional zone, such as stadiums, are not appropriate for this location. In response to this concern, the applicant has scoped down their requested uses within the institutional zone to spiritual use, daycare, private school, and a spiritual leader's residence. And lastly, number six, residents on Old Oak Drive whose homes are situated at a lower elevation than the developable area of the subject site have expressed concerns related to the massing of the building. Staff recommendations. Given that limited information is available with respect to the proposed future building, staff recommend that the holding provision be placed on the subject site, restricting the spiritual use to the existing buildings until the following are submitted. A transportation impact study to address any traffic-related concerns associated with the future building. Traffic and stationary noise study to address any noise impacts. Updated environmental impact study to assess the impact of the future building on the natural features. Slope stability assessment to assess the stability of slopes on the site given the location and design of a future building. A servicing report that would evaluate the options to extend full municipal services to the subject site. And finally, an urban design brief and site plan to allow staff to assess the detailed design and compatibility of any future buildings. For your information, the holding provision is a tool that a municipality can use to deal with technical requirements on a particular site where the land use is already deemed to be appropriate. Therefore, staff recommend that in the short term, while the holding provision applies to the subject site, the permitted uses should be a spiritual use within the existing structure and a single detached dwelling. In the long term, if the holding provision is removed, permitted uses should be limited to spiritual use and ancillary uses, including a spiritual leader's residence, child care center, and private school. To ensure that the spiritual use remains the predominant use on the site, staff recommend that the combined floor area of the child care center and private school should be limited to 35% of the total building floor area. Should the applicant decide not to develop the subject site for spiritual use purposes in the future, single detached dwellings are also appropriate for the site. With respect to the building massing, the future building massing, given the unique topography of the subject site and surrounding lands with the homes on Old Oak Drive situated at a lower elevation than the developable portion of the subject site, staff recommend that the height in any future building be limited to 9 meters. To further mitigate potential impacts on the Old Oak Drive home, staff is recommending that rooftop terraces be prohibited altogether, and that rooftop architectural features and mechanical equipment be limited to 3 meters in height and set back from the rear building facade by a minimum of 7.5 meters. With respect to the natural features identified on the subject site, staff recommend that the Green 1 zone should be applied to the natural features and associated buffers. To provide added protection to the natural features on the subject site, staff also recommend that a conservation easement be applied to the Green 1 zone lands to ensure that the environmental features and systems are protected from site alteration impacts such as grading and tree removal. In conclusion, staff support the requested zoning bylaw amendment as it represents good planning. The staff recommended holding symbol will ensure that additional technical studies associated with a future spiritual building are completed and reviewed prior to the construction of a new building on the subject lands. The inclusion of spiritual uses within neighborhoods improves the sense of community and allows residents to travel shorter distances to practice their faith. The application of the Green 1 zone and conservation easement will ensure that the protection of the significant natural features on the lands. Also, the site is easily accessible by way of an arterial road. And finally, the physical separation between the recommended building envelope on the lands and the lands to be zoned institutional and the nearest residential dwelling is substantial. For all these reasons, staff recommend that Council approve zoning bylaw amendment Z1603 in accordance with the recommendations, Section 7 of the staff report. Thank you for your time. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Rita. Do we have questions for Rita? Go ahead, Councillor Burke.
Thank you for this report, Rita. I know it's been a challenging file, and it's comprehensive, and I think covers many of the concerns that people have. One thing you didn't talk about, and it's something that came up in our report, because a lot of people have asked about, they have a concern about property values. Why aren't property values included in a planning discussion?
Well, through you, Mayor Jaworski, property values are not a planning consideration. It's not something that planning staff considers when evaluating an application. We don't consider whether somebody's property values will increase because of a particular application or zoning bylaw amendment, and we don't consider it if it's decreasing. It's just not something that is a planning consideration.
I want to ask some clarifying questions about the holding symbol, because while those of us around this horseshoe may be fairly fluent in it, it might be more of a mystery. So when we have a holding symbol, if the applicant wants to see that holding symbol removed, do they have to come back to this chamber?
Through you, Mayor Jaworski. Yes, that's correct. The applicant would have to make a zoning bylaw amendment application to lift the holding symbol and come back to council to review the application and make a decision on the removal. That's correct.
And the idea of a holding symbol isn't all that unusual, is it?
No, we apply it throughout the city all over.
So just to be clear, when you want to make changes to this property under a holding symbol, there will be another opportunity for discussion, another opportunity to examine the traffic, as you noted, and the environmental concerns.
That is correct. Yes, when the applicant is ready to develop the site further with a larger building, they would come in with the actual design of that larger building, and they would submit an application to remove the holding symbol, and they would submit all those supportive studies related to traffic and environmental impact study and all the reports that I've listed, and they would have staff would review all those reports again, come back to council and provide the information to you to decide on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Further questions from council for staff? Last call, seeing none. Thank you very much, Rita. Okay. Before I ask for registered delegations to come forward, I would like to advise that Waterloo City Council welcomes and encourages members of the public to comment on matters of interest to them. However, delegates are cautioned that derogatory or inappropriate remarks may constitute slander and could potentially lead to legal action against them. Comments tonight are to relate to planning matters only. If derogatory or inappropriate comments are made against staff, the applicants, or those who are in favor or in opposition of the planning application, the delegate will not be permitted to continue speaking, and the comments will not be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. The chair, that's me, will give the delegate up to 3 opportunities to state his or her position, after which time the city clerk will turn off the microphone and or your PowerPoint, if that's the problem, and the delegate will be requested to leave the podium. You're welcome to stay in a respectful manner if you so choose. For further clarity, the topic of religion, race, and culture is not encapsulated in the Planning Act and is not to be discussed tonight. One of the guiding principles of the city's strategic plan is a strong community. People want to be safe, healthy, and active. They want to feel included and want access to services, systems, and opportunities to participate in the community. Fostering resilient, safe, inclusive, and vibrant communities is the base of Waterloo's success. Moreover, for the general people here tonight, applause, booing, or other audible demonstrations of support or opposition are discouraged and will not be allowed because they may be intimidating for those with opposing views. Please display the same courtesy and respect to others that you expect for yourself. Delegations and members of the audience are requested to respect all citizens, regardless of differing opinions and views. As per the city's procedural bylaw, delegations who registered before 10 a.m. today have up to 10 minutes to speak, and there are 28 registered delegations. That would mean 280 minutes if everybody feels the need to use that all up. All other members of the public who wish to address council, please register with staff outside of council chambers, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak. Due to the volume of delegations registered and all those in the audience who may wish to address council, we request that you refrain, if at all possible, from repeating what the previous delegations have said. If there is a group, we would ask that you appoint a spokesperson to address council on your behalf. And first up, speaking for IBI Group is Thomas Hardiker. Welcome, Thomas.
Mayor Jaworski, members of council. My name is Thomas Hardiker. I'm a professional planner with the IBI Group. I'm here on behalf of the Muslim Association of Canada and a dedicated group of local volunteers responsible for coordinating and establishment of a spiritual use at 510 Urbsville Road. My purpose this evening is to provide a very brief presentation highlighting a number of key points and not duplicate the staff report or staff presentation, both of which were detailed and well presented. There we go. Okay. My presentation will deal with these key bullet points as outlined on the left side. By way of introduction, our original zone change application was submitted in March of 2016. And the purpose of the zone change application at that time was to rezone that property from an agricultural zone to an institutional zone and a Green 1 zone, as well as including a holding provision, which is part of our application. The intent of the application was to provide for a spiritual use in the existing buildings as a prayer center, and the long-term objective was construction of a much larger spiritual use of a new building on the property at some time in the future. This is a general overview of the neighborhood, the subject property, and you can see highlighted in the boxes various land uses within the neighborhood. On the site, photo A is the existing buildings that will be occupied by the short-term use as a prayer center. This is looking north. Urbsville Road to the left of the photos A and B. The existing house and garage is visible there. Photo C is taken from in front of the garage. This is looking east towards Oak Park Drive. That photo was taken recently and shows the benefit of the vegetation at this time of the year. And photo D is taken slightly down the hill area, a photo C looking across the rear of the house and garage on the property. The rezoning proposal, as I previously mentioned, is to rezone from agricultural to institutional on Green 1 to accommodate the prayer center in the existing buildings with the long-term use as a larger, newer spiritual use building. The Green 1 zoning will protect all significant environmental features, and we've also, part of that application, requested the holding provision that was discussed by staff, and the application of the holding zone will ensure that the appropriate reports and studies are done at the time the applicant comes forward with the new building. I've seen this slide in the staff presentation, but this clearly outlines the entire ownership. That portion of the property that will be zoned Green 1, as well as the front portion adjacent to Herbsville Road, will be the institutional zone. Through this slide, you can see that the existing house and garage are in proximity of the I and N in institutional. As part of the application submission and identified through the planning review process, a number of reports and studies were required. This identifies what those were. There was initially the scoped environmental impact study for the stage 1. This is to determine the limits and boundaries of the environmental area adjacent to the existing property. A record of site condition. This is to determine whether there's environmental contamination on the site. That was completed and has been filed with the Ministry of Environment. We've undertaken preliminary grading and servicing analysis. We've undertaken an acoustical study. This is a noise report that was referred to in the earlier presentation. We've also provided a planning justification, and through separate submissions, we provided a detailed written response to all of the submissions that were received by the planning staff from the various agencies and interested groups. A geotechnical report was also submitted along with a sewage capacity analysis system. This is an evaluation of the existing septic system that serves the existing house. There was a concept design prepared by an architectural firm, Massey Inc. and Associates, and this was presented at a presentation that was made at Sir John A. Macdonald High School a number of months ago. As part of the consultation following submission, where there was a pre-consultation meeting with city staff as well as region, city, and agencies, the formal public meeting that was held in this chamber back in May of 2016. Subsequent to that, our clients held a neighborhood meeting at Sir John A. Macdonald High School as an information presentation to those interested citizens and individuals that would like to hear something about the project. And in addition to that, we also held a number of meetings with specific neighborhoods, particularly the residents on Oak Park Drive, who are the closest residents to this proposal. In addition to that, there was a number of discussions with city and regional staff throughout this planning process. Future development. This is the development that would be subject to the holding provision and the removal. The long-term plan is to develop a new building of spiritual use for the Muslim Association of Canada, and it's not anticipated for some time down the road. Any development of the new building will require sufficient funding from Muslim Association. Extension of municipal services is sewer services. Right now the house that's on the property is serviced by city water, but city sewer services aren't available yet. There will be completion of the necessary studies listed under the holding provisions of the bylaw that's presented to you in the staff report. And there will be a formal removal of the holding provision once our client has satisfied all the requirements set out in the holding bylaw, including a submission of a site plan to the City of Waterloo through that normal review and approval process. The new development will be governed by whatever official plan and zoning policies are in effect at the time. An important part of this overall consideration is the number of commitments that our clients have made in reaching a favorable objective in this particular application. They promoted the idea of preserving the area of the site identified as Green 1 and have agreed to the rezoning of that as a G1. They are also in favor of conveying a conservation easement to the City of Waterloo to deal with the preservation of the Green 1 area. They've agreed to a tree planting program on the property, particularly in the neighborhood down the hill, leading towards the Oak Park neighborhood. And future development of the new building will be limited to 9 meters in height compared to the 10 meters that are currently permitted by the official plan. And our applicant is supportive of the number of studies and additional reports required as set out in the holding bylaw. Before I conclude, Mr. Mayor and members of council, I'd like to advise that this has been a long journey for our clients, a journey that became more complex and required more involvement on their part than what might have been imagined when they first began. Nevertheless, today is the day my clients have been looking forward to for some time. Now that that day has finally here and all the requirements have been satisfied or will be addressed through the application of the holding zone on the future facility, I am pleased to advise members of council that my clients support the staff report and our agreement with the recommendations presented, and they look forward to working with City on implementation of these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Do I have questions for the delegate from council? Maybe you could tell us a bit about the conservation easement and what that actually means in plain language for our...
It's a technique that the city has used in a number of situations where there's environmental sensitivity or a need to protect the existing features in an area. It's called an easement. It's much like any other kind of utility easement. It's a constraint on the property subject to the terms of that easement, and it's an easement that is conveyed from the property owner to the benefit of the city. So they mutually agreed on the terms of those requirements. Each easement, conservation easement, would be specific to the situation it's located in.
And I think with respect to your presentation, judging by the tree planting and that, I think the part that's zoned green space, the citizens can expect that there'll be as many or more trees or as green as it is today in the future. Is that something you could expect?
That's possible, yes, yeah. But to certainly protect what's there.
Yeah.
The land will still be owned by our clients. It won't be public land.
Right.
But it will still be protected through that conservation easement.
Thank you. Further questions for Thomas? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So now as we move into the citizens who are going to be talking about bringing their delegates forward, I just want to remind people again, no booing, no applauding. We don't want to talk about religion. We're here to talk about planning matters, not other people and what they think. One thing we did put out on the counter, though, is our strategic plan, which does have a pillar of strong community. So if you were thinking about talking about religion, you might want to rephrase that and talk about the strong community that we're building here. With that, first person, and apologies in advance, because I'm almost surely going to cut off people or cut off people's presentations, so I'll apologize in advance, but we'll get there. First up is Barry Cull, delegate number 2, and I see a vacant spot beside Thomas. Next up is person item number 3, Jason Nealis. And you have 10 minutes, Jason. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm addressing council this evening primarily as a resident of Laurelwood neighborhood to support the application of the Muslim Association of Canada to rezone 510 Urbsville Road for our spiritual purposes. Secondarily, I'm speaking as an associate professor of religion and culture at Wilfrid Laurier University, where I joined the faculty in 2010 to teach South Asian religion courses. Finally, I'm speaking as a community member with my family of Temple Shalom Reformed Jewish Synagogue, which shares the Cedars with Westminster United Church in a residential area on Beechwood Drive, less than 4 kilometers away from the proposed site on Erbsville Road. I'm addressing council as an individual without purporting to speak on behalf of any of these groups or my pickup ultimate Frisbee friends in Waterloo Park on Tuesday evening. So I've read the staff report prepared by the planning office and appreciate their careful attention to detail. I agree with their recommendation in favor of the proposed zoning change for a mosque, child care center, private school, and single detached dwelling for a resident religious leader, with any future plans to be reviewed under the H holding symbol designation, which we've heard about. I'm familiar with the proposed site because we've lived less than a kilometer as the crow or bat flies across Old Oak Park on the other side of Laurelwood Boulevard for the past 7 years. I do not share or clearly understand some of my neighbors' concerns discussed in the report, such as the potential for traffic congestion on Erbsville Road. As the report indicates, the city's noise bylaws address the issue of the Mason's call to prayer, just as I would assume that ringing of church bells is similarly regulated. The environmental impact has been extensively discussed in the report, and the buffer zone of at least 30 meters of woodland in Old Oak Park separates the proposed site from residential areas located below, and I'm satisfied with deferring to the Grand River Conservation Authority to ensure proper environmental protection of the woodland and wetland resources. Of the other concerns, speculation about a decrease of property values seems far-fetched due to the natural barrier and the location of commercial plazas and industrial facilities at the corner of Laurelwood Drive and Erbsville Road. Frankly, I am concerned that the main reason some of my neighbors oppose the establishment of a mosque has more to do with Islamophobia rather than any of the specific
We want to
concerns.
stay on topic on the planning matters. I appreciate you might have thoughts of what other people think, but we really need to stay on the planning matters as opposed to speculating on that. So thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that, because unfounded fears and prejudices should have no place in the council's deliberation on this matter. Now,
Warning number 2, but keep going. I think you're on a good path now.
okay, thank you. Okay, so if I can just put on my professor of religious studies hat for a few seconds, as a faculty member who's involved with and formally directed the joint Laurier-Waterloo PhD program in religious diversity in North America, I've become increasingly aware of the ways in which Canadian ideals of multiculturalism go hand in hand with changing religious demographics. According to the last Canadian census, the National Household Survey of 2011, Muslims make up 3.2% of the total population of Canada, or about 1 million. This is second after the population of those identifying themselves as Christian, with much smaller minorities of Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jews, and other minority groups. My point is that Muslims are now part of the religious fabric of Canadian society and have a place in the religious landscape. Finally, I'd like to emphasize that it is desirable for religious structures and institutions built and designed for spiritual purposes to be embedded in residential neighborhoods. I agree with the point expressed so clearly and directly by Rabbi Goldman in his letter, and perhaps those opposed to the proposal got some sense of this when they held a non-public meeting at the Cedars. Our own experience of attending services at the Cedars has driven the point home, and I hope that this council values that the establishment of this center in Laurelwood will contribute to the mission of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Barry, Jason, do I have questions for the delegate? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next up, delegate number 4, Abdurrahman Mooney, local youth coordinator.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Councillors. My name is Suhaila Batrouk. I live on 368 Banbury Crescent. I am the head of the Muslim Association of Canada mentorship program that is currently held out of the St. Sir John A. Macdonald High School. I've been I've been involved in the youth program for approximately 3 years now. I've been moved from an attendee to a mentor to now the head. This mentorship program means the world to most of the girls in this community. With all the past 3 years, all we've been doing has been building bonds through sisterhood. And it's something that they look forward to every Friday night. And we, through these experiences and through having the opportunity of having this mentorship program, I've learned to understand the need for it, as well as having this safe space in the community. Obviously, with being in a local high school, we're always restricted logistically with bookings, and we are sometimes put into positions where we do not have the bookings due to the high school being closed down for other events, etc. So when we do have an institution such as the ICW, where the youth feel comfortable in their space that they're in, as well as we don't have to deal with as many logistical issues, and I will be able to cater to the need of these youth as they want to have this safe space, and as well as an opportunity as a meeting area, not only just a mentorship program. So it's a meeting area for us to plan these events, that we can plan more community events to give back to the community, which is under supervision all the time. And with more opportunities such as this, we can develop our youth to our best extent.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, so as the chapter youth department head for the Muslim Association of Canada's Waterloo chapter, I, like Sohail has mentioned, have gone from a young high school gosling up into a Waterloo goose. And a little pun there if you got that. Sorry. So having these kind of institutions and initiatives serves three main purposes. And these are the three lessons that I gained from my own experiences of having going through life here in Waterloo. And I've been here for 22 years, so I tell people I'm more local than the grass. And these three positive pillars are this, strengthening the community, giving back, and then also a place for the youth to be able to learn and practice their faith. So number one, the strengthened community. Having an institution or initiatives like the ICW, like this project here that we're talking about today, helps bring the youth together. And when people are isolated in their homes and they kind of stick to themselves, it's very hard to develop that sense of community. And like Sohaila said, I work with her to develop these weekly programs for the youth where they come together every single week, excited to see each other, and over week after week, through the course of many years, this program is going to be going on for many years now. The youth have developed lifelong friendships with each other, and some of my best friends today have grown from initiatives like this. So it helps develop that sense of community where the youth can develop and connect with not only members within their own community, but in the wider community themselves. And that's where the whole second point of giving back comes in, where we've done one of the hallmark projects in the area is the Old Oak Park cleanup, where a lot of the youth, or most of the youth from our program that take place in the SGM High School currently, participate in. And that's because they have developed that sense of community with each other. They encourage each other to want to give back, because now they're much more aware of other members in the community. They're much more aware of the problems and the issues that surround those communities, and then it causes them to want to give back even more. And then the last point I'll mention is just it's a place for the youth to be able to learn and practice their faith freely and in a safe environment, such that they can learn their faith as it is and not be touched by ill-intentioned people who might want to give misinformation. And for these three reasons that I have experienced, that Sohaila has experienced, and we want all the youth to be able to experience, to grow as community members and to give back to the city of Waterloo, we are in favor and want to support and continue to develop not only the youth within our community, but the youth in the wider community, to just the whole concept of just giving back and being integrated in that fabric of Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for doubling up, and thanks for staying on message with the strong communities message. That's an appropriate way of addressing things. Questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, number 5, Mohammed Amal. Welcome, Mohammed.
Mr. Mayor and our councillors, I know that I'm not going to speak as eloquent as my delegates, so I'm coming for this application because I've been involved in it for the past 6 years. So it's a very lengthy process. It does not start with the application itself. It starts with as many as almost a dozen of tests that we've gone through. Some of them will take over a year to be done. And as a nonprofit organization, we are with minimum resources and dependent on donations to do this. So I'm just coming here to say thank you for our city administration, and special thanks for our technical staff that have been working with us during the past 6 years. I know they asked for many tests and cost us lots of money, but hopefully we delivered what we were asked for, and we look forward to get to use the place in the near future, and we look forward also to cooperate with the city officials maybe in the next 5 years or so. So thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. That's the way to keep it short and sweet as well. Questions from the council? From council? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Thank you for coming tonight. Delegate number 6 is Dale Finch. Welcome, Dale.
Thank you. Mayor Jaworski, council members, and observers, my name is Dale Finch. I'm an ordained pastor who serves a congregation of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada, and I'm speaking in support of the establishment of a mosque at 510 Herbsville Road. During the course of history, Lutherans, for whom I can speak, came from Western and Eastern Europe in order to escape chaos in the countries of their origin and establish lives of freedom and peace for their families here in Canada.
And Dale, we'll just have to make sure we move on from the religious aspect of it to the planning matters.
Okay, I really wasn't going to talk about religion. I was just making a passing reference, but I'll do my best, okay?
Pastor, always a pastor.
Okay. To make, to strengthen neighborhoods and such like in the Twin Cities areas, Lutherans, as they established themselves, built churches and so forth, and of course the churches strengthened the communities in many ways, as many of you know, and other faith groups did the very same thing. I spent a considerable amount of time doing volunteer work in the Middle East, and the experiences I had with Muslim populations there showed me the sort of chaos that they were facing on a day-to-day basis, and their need to find a place in the world where they could live peacefully, practice their religion, and raise their families. The upside to a new place of worship is often a new space for neighborhood gatherings, a new recreational facility, and a new space for family celebrations. These are the future community benefits of the Muslim Association of Canada's application for a zone change, I think, at 510 Herbsville Road. The Supreme Court of Canada, as I understand it, has declared that fundamental freedoms in Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms protect all Canadians against all state-imposed burdens, including city government-imposed burdens, on the exercise of religious beliefs, whether the imposed burdens are direct or indirect, intentional or unintentional, foreseeable or unforeseeable. It seems to me that a refusal to allow a zone change for the purposes outlined in the application would be, quote, a state-imposed burden on Muslims' exercise of religious beliefs, unquote, and therefore a breach of Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
But we're talking about the Planning Act, so let's keep it on, Dale.
Well, I didn't know about all this before I came. I just heard from you just a little while ago. I'll do my best. On a more anecdotal note, this past year I volunteered for a learning and nutrition program at St. Luke's Lutheran Church, a program designed to offer breakfast to the children at Franklin School. 3 Wednesdays ago, a grade 7 boy who had picked up his cereal and fruit suddenly shouted out, "I can't eat this." I'm going to mention religion here. It's Ramadan. And he brought his food back to the counter. Now, many of the students at Franklin School are Muslim, and the boy who shouted out, "I can't eat this, it's Ramadan," is not a Muslim, it turned out.
Okay.
But many of his friends
Dale,
at school...
Dale, I'm going to turn off your podium now. I really need to get back on track on planning matters related to this subject site. I realize you have a strong passion for this, and I can see people... We need to set the tone in the first group of 6-7 people to move us along. So I'll give...
friendship more than religion.
We're here to talk about planning matters, not friendship. I'm going to turn your podium on, and then we'll see.
If my congregation did this to me, I'd be in real trouble, some of the things I talk about. Let me end by saying that I'd like to express my support for the proposed prayer center. It makes perfect sense for Muslims who live in the neighborhood in question not to have to travel several kilometers for worship. Any other faith group in similar circumstances would want to do the same as the Muslim population in the neighborhood in question. Thank you.
Thank you for your passion and adjustment, Dale. Questions from council? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you very much. Delegate number 7, Matthew Lucid. Welcome, Matthew.
Thanks for having me, Mayor Jaworski, councillors, staff, residents. Anyway, I'll try and stick handle through this. I didn't realize all the stipulations on it, but really I'm here as a resident of Laurelwood on behalf of myself and my family kind of thing. I live in the neighborhood. So, and really what I'm going to talk about is this is the petition from online, and the main reasons people don't want to move forward with the rezoning based on what I saw. This one here, this person likes the environment. This person says we don't need a prayer center. This person from Calgary.
Yeah. Matthew, I think we're going to turn off the presentation simply because we're here to talk about planning matters, not the petition. I appreciate you might want to talk about the petition, but we'll just turn off the presentation because it refers to religious items and that. So I hope you can go ahead without your...
That's fine.
Yeah.
Let me first start off by saying that wasn't made clear, as the previous person said before the thing.
No problem.
So really from my side, I will say this from the environmental side. I do not want to in any way minimize that. I've planted over 9,000 trees in my life. I've been helping the Green Party at the executive level federally and stuff like that. But I think when we look at a map of Waterloo, I mean, we have green spaces there, and we have a whole lot of development in the sense that I think we're picking on a certain spot here as far as viewing it as an environmental problem. And I really like that the city staff talked about the traffic, and they were able to back it up with the data as far as we're not talking about a lot more cars here or anything like that. I think there's other reasons that people are opposed to this, and we're not talking about those today. So I'm aware of that. But what I will say is this. I do, whether it's trans people being able to use a washroom, women being able to get paid the same as a men, or different spiritual groups getting a fair shake and fair consideration when they are applying for a rezoning law, I think they should get that. And I think if it was a different group, we wouldn't have as many people here today, and this would easily move through and everything like that. So I guess that's the real point that I'm trying to make here, Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you, Matthew, and thanks for adjusting your presentation. I think that's a good lesson for all to speak. If you speak from the heart, you know what you're saying, and we stick to planning matters, we'll get through this quickly. Thank you very much. Questions for Matthew? Seeing none, thank you. Delegate number 8, Seme Albatrouk. Welcome, Seme.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. My name is Seme Albatrouk. I live at 368 Bamber Crescent, and which is about 2 minutes away from the property. I'm an engineer. I work as a project manager at the Bruce Power nuclear power station in Bruce County. To be honest with you, I wasn't sure what to say and what not to say today, with all the turn that this application has brought to the surface since last year. A lot of perceptions, a lot of differences, and I think we all collectively need to address these in order to come out stronger as a society. So on the technical front, I believe the applicant has tried to accommodate the neighbors' concerns, such as consideration where to allow parking in the future, agreeing to plant evergreen trees on their property, agreeing to accept the height limit below that of the official plan for future development, and even some recent requests, simple requests like accommodating not to cut the grass on Sunday whenever possible. In return, I hope the neighbors of ICW find it in their heart to accept the applicant as a neighbor, since they practically are. And I'm sure a good faith and direct communication between both would go a long way. On the social front, I would like to share an observation I experienced about a week ago when I attended the graduation ceremony of my daughter, who was earlier here, and my son from the University of Waterloo. There was about 500 students at each ceremony at the graduation. For the past 4 or 5 years, these students have probably spent more time together than they have spent with their family. And despite the different faiths, different beliefs, different heritage, they managed to get along together. And it's my opinion that this youth and they actually represent the true Canadian society, and we adults need to learn from that. I hope that the rezoning application goes forward and is approved today, and the applicant would use this prayer center to reach out to the society and build bridges, especially with those who might seem to resist doing the same. On the other hand, I encourage others who would like to learn about the real Islamic values to come forward and ask instead of being misinformed by others. Similarly, if I would want to learn about a specific faith, I would go to the scholar of that faith.
Oh, we want to stick to planning matters tonight.
Yeah,
so.
I'm almost done. Just to avoid misinformation, that was my point. Finally, dear councillors, I believe the applicant has cooperated with the city. Requests and studies and reports, despite the financial burden that has brought on the Muslim community. These reports have clearly demonstrated that there is no negative impacts from this rezoning application to allow the use of the existing house and garage as a place of worship. My hope is that today we can all put behind us all the differences and move forward as a society and don't have to prolong or repeat this process in the future. I'm sure you're aware that over 2,000 Muslim and non-Muslim residents have expressed their support to this application through various petitions and emails. These people, like myself, trust that you will vote yes for this application today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sameh. Any questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you very much. Delegate number 9, Lorraine Baumann, please. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Jaworski, members of council. My name is Lorraine Baumann. I'm a longtime resident of Laurelwood, and I've been an active member of the Laurelwood Neighborhood Association for over 15 years. I will be brief. You have already been provided with all the facts of this zone change application, so I will speak to those facts. The executive summary from the Planning Approvals Staff Report and the many additional pages clearly support the zone change application. A key paragraph from the report states, the inclusion of spiritual uses within neighborhoods improves the sense of community and supports the city's strategic plan by fostering inclusivity and ensuring that we build a diverse community where every religious group has a sense of belonging. I have read the staff report, and I have educated myself on the issues surrounding this zone change application. I have also read some of the hundreds of pages of the 15 related documents that were submitted by third-party consultants on behalf of the Muslim Association and are available for review on the city's website. I attended the March 8th neighborhood information meeting that was hosted by our neighbors, the local chapter of the Muslim Association of Canada. I listened respectfully to the presentation at this meeting and then asked questions in a thoughtful and respectful manner. I also followed up with an email to the city's development planner to ask for clarification of the contentious, potentially future building height allowance. I was provided with a prompt and very detailed answer to my question by the city planner. Thank you, Rita. Based on all the facts that I have heard, seen, and read, I, as a Laurelwood resident, fully support this zone change application. This application clearly meets all planning requirements for the rezoning of the lands of 510 Herbsville Road. Furthermore, this application is indeed a planning issue, but unfortunately it has become more than that. Other issues were made evident at the neighborhood information meeting on March 8th. I was appalled and embarrassed as a Laurelwood resident to witness intolerance, disrespect, ignorance, and NIMBYism. So I am also here this evening in support of my Muslim neighbors and to stand up publicly to the intolerance and disrespect that have been directed at the applicants who only want to establish a place of worship for spiritual use and community gathering. This rezoning application is supported by the city's planning guidelines and official policies. These are the facts. So I look to you, members of council, to vote yes on this planning issue. And I look to my neighbors in Laurelwood and the residents of the city of Waterloo and beyond to stand up to and speak out against intolerance and disrespect, for two words that have been edited out of my presentation. I would like to end my presentation with a statement from the editor-in-chief of the Waterloo Region Record, our local paper. This was the last paragraph of this past Friday's editorial. It basically sums up the reason that I stand here before you speaking out. And I quote from the editorial: "It is not enough to silently disapprove of intolerance. Those of us who shake our head and sigh need to do more than that. The silent majority who do not tolerate intolerance need to speak out. We need to let our governments know they must act forcefully to show that mistreating people based on their edited words is just not acceptable in contemporary Canada." The editorial ends with, "Please don't sit silently." So thank you for allowing me to respectfully speak out.
Thank you, Lorraine, and thank you for your on-the-fly edits. I don't see any questions from council. Next up is Gufran Mahbub. Welcome. And that's delegate number 10. We're at delegate number 10.
Honorable Mayor, councillors, staff leads, and fellow citizens. My name is Gufran Mahbub, and I'm with the Muslim Association of Canada. And I have been voluntold to speak on behalf of the project committee. So I guess I drew the short straw on that one. I'm going to try to keep it brief. I think a lot of what I was going to cover has already been covered. I was just going to cover the, again, it's been covered before, but the need for the proposed facility, some of the steps that we've taken so far, and then just some concluding remarks. And more than anything, I guess I'm here to answer any questions from the city leadership. So, the need for the project, I think I covered this as well last time we were here, but questions seem to persist in the community, so I wanted to cover this once again. There are over 150 Muslim families in that northwestern area of Waterloo and the Laurelwood and the New Vista Hills and Clare Hills and so on communities. As we know, in the city of Waterloo, at present, there is only one mosque, which is kind of unusual. Other cities in our region, for example, Cambridge has 3, Guelph has 3, and so on and so forth. There are a number of Muslims in that facility, in that region, in that area that will definitely benefit from this. So I just wanted to bring that again. And I wanted to re-emphasize, because there seems to be some confusion perhaps still lingering about this, is that our application is really all about using the existing facilities to serve the needs of the community as they are. And we feel that the existing facilities are sufficient to fulfill those needs. And that's really what the crux of this application is. Well, picture is worth 1,000 words, and we don't have time for too many words, so I brought a picture along. You have there within the circle, I think the stars are too far for anyone to be able to see, but that's the proposed facility, and that circle is that area that it will serve. And down towards the center of the map, there is the existing mosque, Waterloo Masjid on Herb Street, which, as you can see, is quite distant from that neighborhood. And as Rita and others have pointed out, it is very, very important to have these kinds of institutions within the neighborhoods that they serve for a variety of reasons. In terms of the steps taken, as Muhammad and others have pointed out, it has been a long journey. We had the first pre-consultation meeting with city planners, regional planners, GRC planners on May 2012. It took us almost 4 years to complete all of the reports and studies required to be able to submit the actual application. And we were able to do that in 2016. We had the informal hearing here in this chamber just about a year ago, May of 2016, which I'm sure many of you remember. And we have conducted all of the additional tests and reports that came out of the feedback from that informal hearing. We have also worked diligently during this time with our neighbors to try to understand and address and mitigate their concerns. And as has been stated before, and as it was clear from Rita's presentation and report, really everything, there are no unanswered or unresolved planning considerations in this application at this point. In terms of working with our neighbors, this is a community institution, as several people have said. It will be a benefit to everyone in the community, not just the Muslims. And most of our neighbors understand this, and they welcome this institution. However, some of our neighbors have raised concerns. And as I mentioned, we have worked patiently and diligently with them to try to understand their concerns and try and address them. And some of the concessions or changes that we have made as a result of these discussions include limiting the height of any future development to 9 meters, which is actually less than what our neighbors are able to build on their properties. We agreed in principle to have the conservation easement, the details of which will be worked out by the City of Waterloo Legal Department and our lawyers. We'd like to plant trees, evergreen trees, on the eastern edge of our property to further provide a barrier between our property and those of our two neighbors on Old Oak Drive. I did also, I'm sure it was clear from the maps that people have seen, in terms of physical neighbors, we only have two, one on the north of us and one on the south, with whom we share boundaries with our property. The neighbors on the east are actually separated from us by a curtain, if you will, of 30 meters of woodland really, which is quite significant, and that's going to be increased even more as we rezone through this application more than half of our property to the Green 1 zoning designation. And finally, on the subject of neighbors, I would like to use this opportunity once again to reach out to all of our neighbors and encourage them that if there are any concerns or questions or misinformation, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would like to sit down with you and work these out. And in conclusion, again, I think there is an unquestioned need for this institution. And I'll just take a minute here to express something that I feel quite strongly about. I personally would never presume to question anyone else, any of my neighbors or other faith groups or whatever, about their needs in the community. If they feel that they need it, I agree, and I support that. And I feel, and I'm very encouraged by the remarks that Mayor Jaworski made at the beginning, that this is really all about planning considerations. And, that's really nice and very, very encouraging. And it kind of saddens me that although that is the official position of our city and most of our citizens, yet I somehow feel compelled to stand here again my second time to have to justify why the Muslims need a mosque in this area. I hope that we can move beyond that and be welcoming of each other as neighbors and as community members going forward. And I hope that no one else in the future, and I don't mean just Muslims, I mean really no one else in our community hopefully should have to do that ever again. We've all heard that this application is in conformance with the city's long-term plan as well as all of the requirements and so on. I've already mentioned to you how we work with our neighbors. I've mentioned to you how this actually is good for the environment as we turn more than half of our land, roughly half of our land, to the Green 1 zone that guarantees the preservation of sensitive environmental features. And so, I strongly urge the mayor and respected councillors to approve this application today so that we can start using this facility and so that it can be of benefit to everyone. While I'm up here, I would also just take a minute to thank once again the city, the region, the GRCA, and all the other departmental staff who have worked so effortless, put so much effort and worked so tirelessly over the last 5 years in reviewing and guiding this application through to reach the current state that it is in. We're obviously looking forward to work with them on the next phases of this when they come. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Thomas and the staff at IBI who have acted as our consultants on this project. As you can see, they're all very, very good, although they don't come cheap. I want to thank the mayor and the councillors of the city for what we are today. Really makes me proud. I mean this and I say this regardless of how this goes today. That's not the, it's personal for me because I recently had a situation where I have had to move away from the city of Waterloo. And doing so brings home. Like Waterloo really is a model city, vibrant, a leader in innovation, and really a leader in celebrating diversity and our togetherness. The award that the Waterloo, city received today and the two others earlier, I think we deserve a lot more. We have a lot to celebrate, and I hope and I trust that our city leadership that has brought us this far will continue to take us to even better heights on this. I want to also take this opportunity to thank citizens of Waterloo. As you may imagine, portions of this journey have been a little hard. We have had some harsh comments and so on. But it is very, very heartwarming to see citizens rally and provide encouragement and support to stand up for what is right. And I thank you all. And it really, this is what strikes me, and this is what makes me, firmly convicted that Waterloo is special and Waterloo is home. For those of my Muslim friends and brothers and sisters here, yesterday was Eid, so Eid Mubarak to you all. And for all of us here, next week is our special birthday. So happy Canada Anniversary Day to all of us. And please, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Gufran. Great. Questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next up, number 11, Darren White. Welcome, Darren.
Good evening, Mayor Jaworski and Council. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Darren White, and my family has lived for 21 years now on Cavendish Drive in Ward 2, and that's right around the corner from 510 Herbsville Road. I'm here to support my Muslim friends and neighbors in this rezoning applications. In the decades that we've lived in West Waterloo, we've welcomed people of all backgrounds, and in the process of those years, constructed some very excellent schools, the foundation of which is built on community, togetherness, and supporting each other. I'm hoping, a lot has been said before, and I'll take your comment to not repeat it. Something that is of grave concern to me is that tomorrow we all wake up in the same neighborhood, and we have whatever challenges we had yesterday, we have them tomorrow. And I look forward to participating in healing some of those challenges. But as my daughter counseled me on the way here, she said, stick to the facts, Dad, and keep it under 2 minutes. So I'm going to do that.
Congratulations to your daughter.
I know. You'll certainly hear from her in the future. When this came up, this issue of the rezoning, I did what seemed right. I read over 350 pages of associated reports, the responses to reports, consultant reports, all sorts of reports, because what can you really know unless you do the reading? It's not fun, but that's how you get accurate information. And from that reading, when the sun came up and I'd read everything, I concluded that every reasonable accommodation had been made to every concern raised. And so I'd encourage you, based on that, to support this application. I'd like to say to my Muslim friends and neighbors that I will continue to support you after this. It's a funny thing that happens in my house, a great thing, and it looks like the United Nations when my kids have their friends over, because it's people from everywhere and every background, and I think that's a great thing. And in fact, that's why my wife and I chose to live in Waterloo. That's why we chose to move here 25 years ago. And so I want to continue to support that. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Darren. Questions for the delegation? Seeing none? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're a very smart daughter. Next up, number 12, Lynn McCauley. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski, members of council, staff, and members of the public. I'll keep my remarks very brief because really all that I think needs to be said has already been said. I'm Lynn McCauley. I'm here on behalf of Westminster United Church, which is one half of a partnership that shares a building called the Cedars, which is a partnership between Westminster United Church and Temple Shalom, a Reformed Jewish congregation, two small faith groups who together share a building in West Waterloo. And we're here today to say that we are asking council to support the zoning bylaw because we think that worship spaces in communities very much belong there. And we also ask you to support it because it's a good project, and staff and many other people have outlined all of the components that have been met and have been worked out in terms of planning. And so we're asking you to support the zoning change because it is good planning. Thank you.
Quickest one yet. Thank you, Lynn. I don't see any questions. Number 13, Ali Hassan Zaidi. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. Let me thank the council for this opportunity to address the gathering. And I also want to acknowledge the help of the city clerk and her staff for their assistance in helping me to get signed up on the list. I speak today not only as a Muslim, which is obvious given my name, but also as a resident of Waterloo. My family and I decided to move here about 9 years ago from Toronto and to take up an academic position at Laurier. My academic position deals with cultural and social aspects of pluralism. And I hope to bring some of that expertise to you in my capacity. In fact, I teach a fourth-year seminar course entitled Dialogue and Critique in an Age of Terror. And one of the case studies that we've examined in my seminar deals precisely with the sort of issue that you're dealing with here, the construction of a mosque, an opposition, and various reasons being given for it. Outside of my academic capacity, I also speak to you as someone who's been involved with the community. I've been an assistant coach with Waterloo Minor Hockey. In fact, I care so much about the community that that Councillor Henry will remember. In 2012, I was on sabbatical in Pakistan when the debate went up about a casino, and I was following what was happening in Waterloo from Pakistan, and I wrote to him to express my concerns, and then when I returned, I engaged with him at that time. So my point is simply this, that the people who are gathered here are not simply here for this one issue only. We're involved in the community in many different ways, in many different times. Of course, this issue brings us together now. Let me begin by saying that I acknowledge that there are some concerns about traffic, noise, and parking that are legitimate, and that there are questions worth asking. Neighbors have a right to know what is being built in their communities, and in the Islamic tradition, neighbors have a very high station. In other words, neighbors have legitimate rights over you, as you have legitimate rights over your neighbor. However, my concern is the way in which issues about traffic and noise and parking have become inflamed beyond any reasonable level. And as you probably understand, beyond what most rezoning applications would warrant. This suggests that there are other factors at work. In my academic capacity, I want to draw to your attention three things in particular. One is the place of cultural racism. Two, the use of...
Remember, we're talking about the Planning Act, so
yes.
I appreciate that there's other things, but we're not talking about those other things tonight. So
I'm going to allow you to understand how that cultural racism implies and affects the Planning Act.
Okay, but just so you know, I don't take time to learn. I have to go on gut feel of what you're going to say. So move on to Planning Act type items.
Sure. The use of seemingly technical concerns to mount opposition. This was exactly my second point. And then the fostering of a sense of belonging among cultural groups. I'll move very quickly through my first point. I know you don't want me to speak about that, but Professor Francis Henry and Carol Tater wrote a book in 1995 called The Color of Democracy, Racism in Canadian Society, in which they mention how racism...
I'm going to ask you, because you're a professor, a second warning, but to move on beyond that to the planning matters that we're dealing with here today.
Let me simply say that I think opposition to rezoning is sometimes...
I'd like to hear about your views as opposed to other people's views. We're not here to talk about other people. We're here to talk about your views of this application from a zoning standpoint, and I need you to skip forward to that. This is a third warning.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to say that my views are informed by the academic material. And then so sometimes what happens is that technical concerns are used to mask other forms of opposition. And so articles have been written, there's academic literature that significantly and substantiates how traffic, parking, noise, is often used as a mask for other factors that are at play. And this is my view. This is also academic literature. This is coming out of research studies that have been done in Toronto. Scholars such as many other scholars have written about the ways in which some groups, and they acknowledge and specifically identify Muslim groups as being targeted, racialized groups as being particularly targeted.
Okay, I think we've had enough. I'm sorry, but we're not here for a lecture on different things that are outside the scope of the Planning Act, so I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you. You're my first one. Sorry about that. Next up on the list is number 14, Ronald Matthews. Welcome, Ronald.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I speak in favor of the recommendation before you from a personal and professional perspective. First, as a resident of the area living beside Laurel Creek Conservation Area, on our front lawn we have a green, blue, and orange sign in French, English, and Arabic which says, "No matter where you're from, we are glad you're our neighbor." I was born in Waterloo region because my parents as teenagers came to Canada with their mothers and siblings after the Russian Revolution, made possible only because a Waterloo region Prime Minister had the wisdom and courage to revoke a previous order in council which expressly denied their entry to Canada. A generation later, this region welcomed post-World War II refugees from Europe. One of the child refugees became my wife. This noble tradition is being carried on today in Waterloo in many ways, but specifically by the Centre for International Governance Innovation, CG, of which I'm a former senior fellow, by initiating a World Refugee Council headed by Lloyd Axworthy and Paul Heimbecker. Wouldn't it be sad if our efforts on a global scale to make our world more humane were diminished by our inability on a local level to accommodate religious, ethnic, and cultural differences? Second, as a former director of the Peace and Conflict Studies program at the University of Waterloo, housed at Conor Grable University College, I deeply respect and greatly appreciate the role of council and staff to bring this recommendation and to mediate different perspectives. Diversity always brings with it tough choices and decisions, but also offers immense opportunities and much creativity. I trust you will have the wisdom and courage to advance that possibility today. Your decision has long-lasting and far-reaching implications and potential. Thirdly and lastly, as a former executive director of the Binational and International Mennonite Central Committee, I have witnessed the profound and powerful understanding that can occur from interfaith coordination and cooperation and collaboration. Having lived in 5 different countries and 3 continents, and having worked and visited many more countries, I've experienced firsthand MCC's work with Islamic agencies, institutions, and communities in its relief, development, and peace efforts. For example, in Syria, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, elsewhere in the Middle East.
Are these planning matters on Urbsville Road?
They are. They are indeed. This kind of cooperation results in building bridges to communities of resilience, hope, and well-being. That is your challenge and your opportunity again tonight in this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald. And with that, we are halfway through the registered delegates. Delegate number 15, Asif Manzoor. Welcome, Asif.
Respected Mayor Dave Jaworski, and through you, City Council, staff, my brothers and sisters in faith from Interfaith and from all walks of life, good evening. My aim today is to walk through my quick paragraphs without any edited words. My name is Asif Manzoor, and I'm the chapter head for Muslim Association of Canada in the Waterloo region. And as an applicant, I wanted to take a moment and say a few words about the applicant, which is MAC. But before I do that, Mr. Mayor, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. And we believe that this earth is trusted with us, and we are to take care of it. Mr. Mayor, MAC has been active in the Waterloo region since early 2000s. And we are ethnically and gender diverse, grassroots organization, and serve the community through 2 mosques, an elementary school, a weekend school, and 2 largest Eid festivals in the region. We take part in Food Bank's construction project in Waterloo at the Conestoga Mall, and with donations over 4,000 cans almost every year. And we do that by engaging people in donating to our CAN-R structures to support the communities. We have been adopting the Old Oak Park in the neighborhood for 3 years, which has turned into a community barbecue, and we hope to spread this initiative throughout the city and the region. Mr. Mayor, our region welcomed more than 1,500 refugees in the recent year. And MAC worked shoulder to shoulder with governmental and non-governmental organizations to support them, and we supported over 960 individuals through various programs. In fact, it's my pleasure to announce that our first family that MAC is sponsoring will be arriving tomorrow. So it's a special week for us. Through the aforementioned initiatives, including the Islamic Center of Waterloo,
on the 510 Herbsville, the reason why we're here. MAC hopes to establish an Islamic presence in Canada that is balanced and constructive and integrated, though distinct, within the social fabric of Canada. And we foresee a time when our values are not seen as alien. With that, I thank you very much and the Council for your time.
Thank you, Asif. Seeing no questions. Number 16, Mohammed Abdul Latif. Welcome, Mohammed.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councillors, our community members. My name is Mohammed. I am a pharmacist new to Canada. On behalf of my family, myself, my wife, and my 3 children, I am here tonight to support the rezoning. We are in need for that. I am one of the residents of this of the area of Laurel Wood. Mr. Mayor, you said that strong community. I will quote that from you. The diversity that we can see in this room is going to be the strong thing for Canada. Please, please, it's a wish for us. As most of you know that Muslims, or might not know, Muslims are praying 5 times a day. Of course, children will be at school. We are attending, we are working as well, so at least 3 times we will be traveling, commuting to the masjid to pray, or the mosque to pray. And instead of traveling at least 15 minutes, it will be something like 5 minutes. So it's making life easier for us and for our children. And with all respect to our neighbors, we will continue together in the community. And I'd like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity tonight to bring this up.
Thank you. Welcome to Canada and welcome to Waterloo. Number 17, Rania Lawendi. Welcome.
Hi. Hello to our city councilors and our mayor, Dave Jaworski. My name is Rania Lawendi. I'm the loudmouth all of you hear on the radio sometimes about this project. I'm born and raised in Waterloo, went to WCI, graduated from University of Waterloo, and I'm also a resident of Laurelwood. Having read the reports and being a part of the project, I feel obviously that MAC has done its due diligence with all the studies and reports that have been asked by the city and what the city requires. I am a member of MAC. I'm a principal by profession, and I also serve as an active member of this project. So I'm obviously very invested. And one of those things is my dad was one of the people that started the Waterloo Mosque, and I saw how that made a difference in my life growing up as a Canadian Muslim who didn't have a lot of Muslims around them, and it made a big difference in my sense of belonging. And I wanted to also see that for my own children in the community. I believe that our city, our country, and more specifically our neighborhood in Laurelwood has a commitment to diversity and inclusion, and this also is very in line with the vision of MAC, as Asif Manzoor just talked about the different outreach projects that we do. When I was growing up as a Muslim in Waterloo, there were very few Muslim families, and in the past few decades, there have been a lot more families that have come into the region and migrated to our beautiful city. One of the main factors is the 2 universities, which you've heard some professors and different people speaking, that have attracted a substantial amount of Muslims to the community. The tech industry has also attracted many, and the multiple hospitals that we have attracted a multitude of doctors and professionals. Most of them have actually moved into the Laurelwood neighborhood, so I can count over 200 families in the Laurelwood, Clare Hills, that type of area, and they need to have a safe space to worship. And I think we can all see in the climate that we have, some of us feel attacked as a group with all the different hate crimes that are happening. Stats Can just reported.
But we need to stay on the plan.
Okay,
matter,
no problem.
Yeah.
You're going to interrupt me a few times, don't worry.
But at
you
most
know I'm
3.
going to say it.
But at most 3, Rania.
Yeah. So I ask you, what's causing this huge uproar? Like, why are there so many people here? Why are there so many people downstairs? And what what you need to think about as counselors too is what message does this send to the Muslim community, and what message does this send to our youth? So my own son in the car, we were a little late, so we were coming from London, my mom's in the hospital. He said to me, "Mom, if this was a church, it wouldn't be an issue." And that's really sad that that's how he feels. The message should be, and I hope it will be today from City Council, is that we are welcome here, that we do deserve a place to worship as long as all the planning things have been met. What I feel is that you're welcome to pay taxes, you're welcome to buy a home, but some of the things that are the messages sent to us is you're not welcome to worship as a society, and this is a bit problematic. The reality is our environment is charged, and we do need a safe space, and there is a huge need in the community. I think some of the community members are here telling you about this huge need. I know that the mayor, it's not your fault, but you want everyone to stay on point and on message. But I think it is a factor that there is, unfortunately, if we look at the digital footprint, there is a message of racism and xenophobia, and it does affect how councillors may vote.
Sure, but we're here to...
I know, I told you, number two, that's okay, I got
that's
it.
Number two.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, focus on the planning matters of the vibrant, caring community, that's okay. Anything beyond that is probably for another day.
Okay. So as elected leaders of this community, you are charged with deciding what is right and what is legal and what is morally sound. And you will be sending a message to the community and to the society. And what I hope and what I pray is that you understand the importance of a sense of belonging for the youth and for Muslims, an importance of a place to pray and to feel as an active faith group, a place for Muslims to be able to give back to the society, and I think that we've done that really well. And like I said, the digital footprint, unfortunately, is very sad, and I hope that the footprint that the councillors have today will be a message of support. Thank you. See, you didn't do the third one.
You made it. You made it. Number 18, Leon Kale. Welcome, Leon.
Thank you. I will say Ron Matthews was a teacher of mine. I'm hoping to avoid a warning like he got. Assalamu alaikum, Mayor and members of Council. Although I am a Mennonite, I chose to use the traditional Muslim greeting because it conveys an important concept that I hoped to share in my brief presentation. I speak in favor of the proposed zoning change. Peace be with you or upon you means you personally, but also your family, your neighbors, and your community. I am an organizer for a group called Abrahamic Peace Builders, which has been meeting for over a decade, consisting of individuals from the three Abrahamic faiths. We look for ways to bring peace and a type of peace to our respective communities. We've often met in each other's places of worship, including cedars, and that was a very powerful meeting. We've created events that have brought various groups together. We've helped create partnerships between churches and mosques in sponsoring refugees, and I think you heard about that just before this. I think the most important thing, though, is bringing people of different faiths together to know each other on a personal level. Here was an interfaith meal prepared by Turkish refugees who were being hosted by a Mennonite couple shortly after the tragic shooting at a mosque in Quebec. As we've noted, this proposed zoning change has attracted a lot of attention. Too often this focus has been on the religious identity of the applicant and has sometimes led to heated and polarized conversations. In May, we held an event to demonstrate support for the freedom of everyone in Canada to practice their faith. We also invited the group opposed to the rezoning application to participate in the panel discussion. We wanted to give them an opportunity in an organized manner to engage in dialogue with a wider community and share their perspective. Regrettably, they declined the invitation to attend and express their opinion. Our experience has been dialogue with neighbors is helpful and needed during building projects. I say this because when my church, Florida Mennonite, was constructed, our new building, we needed the cooperation of our neighbors and different government agencies. We had acquired a residential property beside our existing church, as well as a piece of land from the GRCA. We worked hard to accommodate our immediate neighbors who faced a replacement of a house next to them with a much larger church. We are extremely grateful to everyone for their cooperation during this process. We see that same spirit and desire for cooperation with the applicant's request. Our desire would be that the applicant would experience the same level of cooperation from council that we received. I'm going to skip over this slide, but I'm just going to note that I don't feel that it is representative of those that are necessarily opposed to this. I will say when I invited them to participate in our panel discussion, they wished us well. I don't want to share more because they asked me not to, but I would say it's important that we not judge our neighbors solely by the contents of some anonymous person posting online. Our forefathers were the first European settlers in Waterloo, acquiring the rights to settle here from Canada's First Nations. We came to this place because we were seeking a place of refuge where we could freely practice our faith without having to hide our churches or our faith like we had to at times in Europe. Waterloo has seen many changes since our Mennonite ancestors created this corduroy road unearthed last year. And we would ask Council to accept this rezoning application to continue that tradition that everyone is free to practice their faith and live in peace. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Well, the Mennonite craftsmanship certainly shows through in that corduroy road, as we found out.
It was durable.
200 years.
I can't explain further on that if you have a question for me.
Thank you. No, I think we're good, Leon. Thank you. And thanks for skipping over the slide, too. Next up, delegate number 19, Norm Finkelberg and Ann Quinn Wallace.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. At the risk of strike one, I'd like to extend, we'd like to extend Eid greetings to our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Yes. Eid Mubarak.
My name is Norm Finkelberg. I'm a member and lay leader at Temple Shalom, the Reformed Jewish congregation in Waterloo that shares the Cedars Worship Center with Westminster United Church. We are speaking this evening on behalf of Interfaith Grand River, to which we all belong. Interfaith Grand River is a group of people who reside in the Grand River watershed and belong to diverse faith communities and spiritual traditions which are part of our community. We have been working together since 2001 to cultivate an environment of tolerance, understanding, respect, trust, and mutual support among all our neighbors.
My name is Ann Quinn Wallace, and I'm a Roman Catholic Christian. I worship at St. Jerome's University, and I teach theology at Regis College at the University of Toronto. I live in the Laurelwood neighborhood, and I did not receive notices because I was not within the exact zoning. But through Interfaith Grand River, we've had many conversations about this, and it is part of our mandate to be very aware of what is happening within our community in relationship to interfaith conflicts and so on. And we also, as part of our mandate, try to get involved in those and try to resolve them. And we are presently working very closely with the Muslim Association of Canada and other people in the neighbourhood of Laurelwood to try and resolve any conflicts which may have occurred out of this. We certainly believe, like everyone else, that people are entitled to worship and to live within a reasonable distance from their place of worship and to have community there. And it is also a very fine way to get to know your neighbours. And I certainly look forward to being invited to come there and worship with you. Thank you.
We wish to express the support of Interfaith Grand River for the application for the change in zoning, which will permit the Muslim Association of Canada to establish a prayer center on the property at 510 Herbsville Road.
Good evening, Mayor Jaworski and council members. I have a reserved spot. I'm going to save you some time, so those 10 minutes. So I decided I'll join our representative group, Interfaith Grand River. I'm sorry I used the word faith.
And because of the reprimands that you have issued, particularly to the academics in this room, I will not wear my academic hat. But I will wear my community worker hat and a neighbor hat. And so I just want to remind you that planning does not happen in a vacuum. How is my presence and the presence of everybody else in this room related to the issue of planning? Because we are holistic beings. And there are two academic terms, in spite of choosing not to speak as an academic, that I would like to speak about. One is intersectionality. We are much more than one thing. And that could be, I can't use the R word, I can't use the F word. So you can fill all those, I meant another F word, you know. So, but what completes us as human beings, what makes us neighbors, and why we come to you for planning our neighborhood is much more than our individual presence of dots and dashes that go on a map that we have been witnessing in this room. So I want you to bear that in mind as you proceed. We're also living in a pluralistic society. I have an aversion to words called tolerance and diversity, because diversity, if you pay lip service to it, is meaningless. We are a pluralistic community. We are people who hold our differences quite dearly. And our group, Interfaith Grand River, Abrahamic Faiths Forum, of which I am a member as well, and many others who strive to create a healthy and hopefully neighborly community that is respectful of everybody's dignity, strives towards the goals that you outlined in your introduction. There is a particular community which shall remain unnamed that happens to be the target in the current political ideological times. And it's the members of that particular community that are harmed every single day. When someone like myself cannot walk down the street without looking over my shoulder who is following me, or someone like myself.
We want to stay to planning matters.
Oh, I'm certainly coming to planning matters.
Well, no, you need to
because
skip forward.
I plan my life based upon all of the factors that inform my life.
But
I think it is important for you, as respected people in this room, to recognize all of those factors that go into planning our lives as well as planning our communities. So I hope you will give due consideration to this application in the spirit of building a healthy community in Waterloo region.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And your delegate number was 28, right?
Yes,
okay.
Strike
Thank
that
you.
off.
Thank you. Delegate number 20, Aaron Bowe, please. Delegate 20.
Mayor Jaworski, members of council, thank you for hearing us out tonight. Eid Mubarak to all of our friends in the audience. I am not terribly familiar with your faith, but I'm sure this is not the traditional celebration. I am here, I do not live in the Laurel Hood neighborhood. I am not Muslim. When I go to St. Francis Catholic Church, but mostly I'm agnostic. I am here, I hope, as Ms. Baumann said, as a member, as a representative of the silent majority. I am here to express my support for this rezoning application. I think it is perhaps unusual for someone with no dog in the race to come and sit through 2 hours of planning, but this is an unusual application, as I'm sure you as council people are aware. You see hundreds of these, right? And this is not the normal kind. And yet, I have read it. I've read the application itself. I have read some of the hundreds of pages of supporting material, and there is nothing in it that should raise an eyebrow. The petitioners have commissioned environmental studies, noise studies, traffic studies, and there's nothing in it which would give one pause. They have been collaborative, and they have opened their doors to neighbors and people with concerns. They have gone in every way above and beyond. And yet, we find ourselves in the face of some fairly serious opposition to this. I cannot, under the rules of the debate, speculate about the source of that opposition. But I will say that silence in the face of all of this noise does not strike me as a neutral position. So I'm here because I didn't think I could be silent, and I'm asking you very briefly, as members of the council, to cut through all this noise and to consider the application on its face, is according to the Planning Commission and the experts who have given us their strong recommendation that this go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Questions?
Thank
Sorry.
you. Nope. I don't think there's any questions. Thank you, though. Hashim Mir, delegate number 21. Welcome.
Test. Okay, that's kind of loud. Good evening, esteemed City Council, Mayor Jaworski, and dear residents. It's a good thing I wrote this speech on a tablet so I could quickly find and replace all mentions of faith and religion. First of all, I'd like to begin by thanking the Integrated Planning Department, in particular Rita Shylock and Trevor Hawkins, for their really insightful report on the zoning change. The report adequately addresses the opposition from our concerned neighbors in a balanced and insightful manner. So I won't waste any more time to belabor that discussion any further. Instead, what I'd like to do today is offer the perspective of someone who's grown up in this community. It's a beautiful city, and its community is so close to my heart. I'm just moved by the amount of support that we've gotten from all the interfaith groups here today. I never expected this level of support. So from an early age, I've known Waterloo as a tolerant community that celebrates diversity. At my high school, in Waterloo Collegiate Institute, I vividly remember the day that I very nervously approached the administration to request a classroom to perform Friday prayers. And I was surprised by the amount of warmth, kindness, and support I got from everyone, right from the principal all the way down to teachers, secretaries, facility staff, you name it. God bless them all. That day made me realize that this community is indeed special, and I was incredibly fortunate to be living here. In the words of Mr. Justin Trudeau, diversity is Canada's strength. And I don't think any city embraces diversity quite as well as Waterloo does. One thing I'm extremely proud of, and I'm sure many of us as a Waterlooan, is our worldwide recognition. I distinctly remember one term when I was doing an internship in the Silicon Valley, and I hopped on an Uber from the airport, and the driver's first comment to me was, "You must be from Waterloo." And I was shocked how he knew, but it turns out Waterloo is infamous in the Silicon Valley and all over the world. And all the Uber drivers happen to know us because we're always taking Ubers from the airport. We are so respected as a community for our ability to attract and cultivate talent. We've even been ranked as the smartest city in the world. Now, that doesn't just happen by coincidence. I think all the credit really goes to the strategic policy decisions that City Council, you guys over here, have made not only to embrace but celebrate diversity and multiculturalism. You see, with the policies that foster inclusiveness, we are able to attract talented people from all over the world, regardless of their faith, regardless of their background. And we're able to help them thrive in an environment by making them feel welcome, safe, and included. To myself and many others, mosques are so much more than just a place of worship. They provide a platform for important community building and welfare initiatives. For example, through the mosque, I have been involved in charity drives, soup kitchens, interfaith seminars. I've even helped organize 2 youth sports leagues and a hackathon. A mosque is at the core of all of these initiatives that are fundamentally geared towards the betterment of our communities. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to anyone that the needs of our community, the Muslim community, have outgrown the capacity of our one and only mosque. I'm sure the city is all too familiar with our parking woes on Fridays, where we often have to park several kilometers away and walk over. This past week, as we were wrapping up Ramadan, our mosque was so packed that some of our congregants had to pray outdoors in the parking lot in the night. Imagine trying to pray while being outside for 3 hours while the temperature is below 10 degrees Celsius. It's a horrible feeling. So from a city planning perspective, This new mosque will help alleviate the traffic and provide some much needed breathing room for our current mosque. This community has been eagerly awaiting this project's approval for many long years now, as you've seen, 6 years. And I implore Council to today say yes to diversity. Say yes to upholding all the values that this community has been grounded for in so many years and have been a pillar of our success and worldwide recognition. Say yes to a more diverse and pluralistic society in which we all feel like we belong. Let's build a community where we can all thrive regardless of our race or religion. Thank you.
Thank you, Hashim. Next up, delegate number 22, Greg Romanek. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski, members of council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Romanek. I'm a professional planner with Stantec Consulting Limited. I'm here this evening on behalf of my clients, 3 property owners shown on the map up on the screen, owners of property at 464, 466, 468 Old Oak Drive, which is the end of Old Oak Drive and relatively close to the subject lands. I appear tonight before council to express our support for staff's recommendations in report IPPW 2017-044. We have attended the previous informal public meeting on this topic and at the neighborhood information meeting hosted by the applicant. We've had numerous discussions with staff. We've submitted written comments to staff and the applicant, which I understand council has received. And we met with staff and the applicant and their planner to further discuss ideas regarding this proposal. We've appreciated those opportunities for exchange and communication with staff, the applicant, and their consultant. In expressing our support for staff's recommendations, I only wish tonight to reiterate and re-emphasize some of the key planning concerns we've expressed in the past and which we feel continue to be important as these plans will be implemented and which we feel staff's recommendations address quite well. These include the continued protection of the special and sensitive environmental area and wildlife within the Old Oak Park and on the portion of the subject lands to be rezoned Green 1. We support the use of holding provisions for further environmental assessment to consider the effects of a development proposal when known, particularly should the option of servicing to the sanitary sewer at the end of Old Oak Drive be considered. We also reiterate our concern regarding the sensitivity to the design relationship between a new building on the lands and the use of the subject lands relative to the adjacent residential homes on Old Oak Drive. For example, and these are addressed in the staff report, things like building massing, lighting, and the early introduction of landscape screening, and in particular, given the significant grade differential between the two areas. We've also noted and we reinforced the idea of consideration of building infrastructure and site activity from a noise perspective, for example, rooftop building plant, and also the addressing of typical site planning concerns, design, location of parking areas, screening of lighting in relation to the adjacent residential uses, the management of grading and drainage from those parking facilities relative to the environmental lands. We appreciate that future approval processes will involve further notice and additional opportunity for my clients to have communication and dialogue with both city staff and the applicant to address future phases of the proposed use. We look forward to those opportunities. In closing, we thank staff and the applicant for the opportunity to convey and have our ideas and concerns considered. We trust that in realizing our neighbor's new use, by diligently implementing staff's recommendations, a good planning design and neighbor relationship can be achieved. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Greg. I don't see any questions, but certainly thank you for that perspective. I think when people take time to get well informed, go through the process, and some of the things that we deal with here at counselors, ward counselors in particular, is neighbor-to-neighbor issues, and those are often the hardest to figure out the smooth, sweet spot moving forward. And although it took quite some time, it's refreshing to hear that it worked out for your clients, for the neighbors here. Thank you. Delegate number 23, Lily Vigiliano. Welcome, Lily.
Hi, thank you. My name is Lily. I live, work, play, and volunteer here in Waterloo region. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity for all of us here to speak, and I'm speaking here today in support of the 510 Herbsville Road rezoning application. I'm going to keep my moment brief, as I will only echo what's been said before me by the many other supporters. So 2 points from the staff report at the City of Waterloo was that Herbsville Road is a 2-lane regional arterial road designed to accommodate up to 20,000 vehicles per day, and currently only uses 11,800 vehicles. So the issue of traffic really just isn't there. In our current environment here in Canada and on a global scale, places that encourage community, neighborliness, and create a sense of belonging should be encouraged and celebrated. Currently, both cities and the region are in the midst of their neighborhood strategies. And according to the City of Waterloo website, strong, connected, and vibrant neighborhoods are beneficial to individuals and the community as a whole. This space, like any other community space, will align with the 5 key themes outlined in the neighborhood strategy by the City of Waterloo. 1, to increase social connectedness. 2, to improve neighborliness. 3, to foster inclusivity. 4, to build a sense of belonging. And 5, to enhance placemaking. In light of this alignment, I strongly encourage the City Council to vote for the application before you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Delegate number 24, Sheng Liu. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to express my opposition to the rezoning amendment applications. So if someone can bring up my PowerPoint. So as one of the residents in Laurelwood neighborhood, I'm fine with using the current building at 510 Herbsville Road for the spiritual use. However, my biggest concern is the uncertainty of its phase 2 development and its impact to local community with respect to the traffic, environment, and the social dynamics. So this is the current 2 existing dwelling buildings on the property right now. And so is it this application is really about these 2 existing residential building? I don't believe so. This is the applicant shared with the public on their website about their detailed development for the phase 2. So if we're looking at some of the key numbers here, so the phase 2 development plan to build much larger buildings on this property, which has a gross floor plan is 2,500 square meters, and with building height is 10 meters, and with parking lot is 75 parking space. So it's just looking at the numbers, it's hard to imagine how big the building will be. Just taking very simple examples as like a single dwelling house is about like 2,000 square foot average. And this 2,500 square meters equivalent to the 26,910 square foot, which is about 13 times of the single dwelling house. And also, if it's still hard to imagine how big the building will be. And I just take a picture of the YMCA buildings, which is sitting on the Laurelwood Drive and the Fisher Hallman. So this building is designed to serve the resident in the city of the Waterloo. and the building has the 45,000 square foot. So if we do a simple math here, 26,900 square foot is equivalent to 2/3 of this building. So this is the future buildings will be on this property. So you can imagine how big that building will be. Also, if you're looking at the Google map, the two existing buildings on this land right now is very close to the Erbsville Road. And so I'm guessing the square footage of the current existing building is less than 2,000 square foot. And so the new buildings will be 13 times of that size. And if you're looking at the open space on these properties, will be much closer to the green space on the north part. So I can imagine to build these new buildings, it will pretty much taking up all the open spaces on this property. And the property need to cut some trees to make a room to build this new building as well. And this humongous building will sitting on this low density residential area. So just imagine how intruding these buildings will be. And it will definitely change the landscaping of our neighborhood. And so like I said earlier, this rezoning application is not just about the existing dwelling building on this property. It is to transform this land to a massive scale of the building sitting on this land in the future. Secondly, I want to talk about the impact to our environment. From the picture on the screen, you can see there's a few green spaces surrounding this piece of land currently. And also the two existing buildings located very close to the Erbs Road. And the building has a certain distance from the green spaces. And those green spaces are the homes for variety kinds of wild animals, and they have been there for many, many years. And our neighborhood is actually full of the wildlife, from deers to coyotes, from birds to turtles. They have been seen in this neighborhood. And it's very important to appreciate the beauty of those wild animals from a distance so that we don't disturb them. However, by adding this humongous building on this piece of land, will definitely move the human activity much closer to the home of those wild animals, which will cause a devastating consequence to the wild animals in our neighborhood. And so also, because I'm not expert, I'm not architect, but as a homeowner, I know how big hole the builder need to dig to build my home. And then for these humongous buildings to be built on this property, it's just this big hole will be like 13 times of that size. It's just too difficult to assess its impact on the geographic feature of this land. So this some of the quotation from the report. So it says the applicant's intention is to proceed 2 phases. The first phase involved using the existing structure, while the second phase proposed structure a new spiritual use building. And also giving the limited information on the second phase, the EIS is unable to evaluate the potential impact of the future buildings on the natural feature. So even the expert is not able to assess the impact on our environment. With this big unknown ahead of us, as one of the residents living in this neighborhood, I fear the worst. And also, last but not least, the traffic. I know a lot of people already talk about traffic. So back to my previous examples, the YMCA building. YMCA building is sitting on the intersection of the Laurelwood Drive and the Fisher-Holman Street. There's a traffic line. There's a left turn lane to accommodate the busy traffic. And then we can take a look at the Erbsville Road. First of all, it is not at intersections, which means there's no traffic line. Secondly, there's only one single lane on each directions. I bet everyone has experience with waiting behind a car that is trying to make a left turns on the single lane road. there's nothing you can do. You just wait. How long it will be, it's hard to say. It depends on the traffic. So in addition, the Erbs Road curved and the downslope right before the property at 510 Erbs Road, which adds additional difficulty to make a left turn there. Even the car behind that will have the difficult and may need to make a abrupt full stop if the drivers didn't anticipate the car ahead is trying to make a left turn there. So with the snow or rain, the road will become very slippery and the situations will become worse and cause the driving hazard. So this new building, proposed new buildings, which planned 75 parking space. So assuming the worship's activity will be 5 times per day, daily on the weekdays, and so there will be 75 times of 5, so that's 375 more cars that will travel on the Erbs Road every day. So suppose 50% of the cars are coming from the other directions and need to make a left turn there. And it is 188 more cars to making left turn on this exactly spot daily. And just to put yourself in our shoes, imagine like you were very busy working mom, tried to get your kids to the school, to the daycares on the peak hours, and but you just find yourself very frustratedly waiting behind the cars that is trying to make a left turn ahead of you. So you just imagine how frustrated you will get. In addition, in the report, it mentioned there's other options like walking and bicycling to the destinations. But if you go back to the previous slides, there's no sidewalk on that side of Erbsville Road. I fear the people will choose to walk on that side of the road because they not only put their life at risk, but also adding the driving hazard to the people traveling on the Erbsville Road every day. So the current zoning determines this property is not suitable to accommodate the busy traffic and also is not suitable to open to the public use. Also like back to this, the second to last slide. So there's a few school and daycares surrounding within 1 kilometers areas about this property. And so you can imagine there's high school and elementary school and daycares. And you can imagine how busy this road, Erbsville Road, will be at school times. So to conclude, I want to express my opposition to this rezoning proposal. I'm not satisfied with the planning staff to making an isolated recommendation without fully assessing the impact from applicant's phase 2 development plan. And the applicant has been really clear about their intentions to have the phase 2 development, and some of the details has been shared with the public. So to me, it's clear that rezoning application is the first steps of the whole development plan, and therefore the recommendation should be made based on the fully assessment on the current and the future development plan and its subsequent impact on traffic, environment, and social life on our local community.
Thank you. Thank you. Seeing no questions. Delegate number 25, Hope Yang.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Hope Yang. I'm speaking. I have a PowerPoint. I have a PowerPoint here. Okay. I'm speaking on behalf for the group of residents opposing 510 Erbsville Road rezoning. We are a group of volunteers with the common concerns there are over 500 homeowners and residents legally signed on our paper petition. Our online petition also contracted over 716 signatures since last year. Tonight, I'd like to talk about 3 related topics. First, what's really happened in our community. Second, the reasons why we oppose this the zone changing application. The third, our opinion of the staff report. At first, what's really happened in our community? As the residents with different voices, what we have experienced since May 2016. In the neighborhood informal information meeting on March 8, 2017, the city was misrepresented, and the residents found out in surprise we are not allowed to ask any questions in public. We have many questions for some incorrect information from the applicant documents. For example, the parking ratio. It's required 8 parking spaces for every 100 square meters of floor space. But in the meeting, the professional designer demonstrated that 2,500 square meter conceptual new building only with 75 parking space instead of 200 parking space. All those kind of questions not allowed in public in that meeting. So to make up the lost opportunity to ask questions, we tried to organize another neighborhood information meeting, but our invitation to the city and to the council were declined. Then our neighborhood meeting on April 19th changed to collect the residents' concern for the city to hear instead. But some based media just totally ignore all the truth. They just attacked it and labels us as anti-Muslim, bigotry, hateful, racist.
We want to stay on topic on the planning matters, though, Hope? And just talk about the planning. Well, okay, consider that the first warning. Thank you.
Those articles didn't contribution to solving any issues, but only further divided the community. In fact, they are trying to misleading this zone changing application to a wrong direction. Just as today's meeting, many delegates were talking about unrelated topic except Planning Act. Okay. Finally, we are here today. Tonight, the council will make a decision first on the zone changing application, then the recommendation in the staff report. Here's my second topic, why we oppose this zone changing application. We understand and respect the applicant need. We have been only opposing the zone changing application due to its associated and uncertain impacts, such as the noise and the light to the surrounding homeowners, environmental impact, the traffic congestion. In total, we submitted 13 concerns to the city. It's been a year since the informal public meeting. The applicant still cannot provide a concrete plan for the future buildings and the relevant supporting document, such as transportation impact, traffic loss study, environmental impact. On the other hand, the city did not mention any related plans. For example, how much it will cost the city to collect the subject land to the city sewage system. Without all those important and supporting documents for the zone changing application, the public is hard to be convinced how the application could be approved under current Planning Act. That's our major opposing reason. In my third topic today, we have two opinions to staff report. First, for the community impact and comments from the staff report, we submitted the city with 13 concerns, in addition of over 500 legal signatures collected from the homeowner and the residents, but the staff report only picked up 3 to address. Second, the Section 7 recommendation in staff report. Rather than to continue to request from the applicant for more supporting documents on the future buildings, the city simply chose wrapped all these uncertainties into a holding provision. The applicant will get what it wants, but the public do not have the right to appeal. That's extremely unfair to the public. It feels like the city simply threw all these unsolved problems, issues to the future and cleaned itself from any responsibility to recommend council to vote for this zone changing application. It's like to issue a blank check, but the homeowners will have to pay for it. In short, the homeowner and the residents from the communities, we oppose 510 Urbsville Road zone changing application, and we object the city remove our appeal rights to Ontario Municipality Board, OMB. At the end, we may ask the council to consider other options instead of zone changing at this stage. As we know, before 2003, the agricultural zoned land has been allowed for spiritual use. We wanted to know if it's an option that the city can make an amendment to the current agricultural zone to allow the existing buildings and the property to be used for spiritual use. That's exactly required by the applicant in the short term. In the future, after providing the detailed plan with the required documents for the future buildings, the city can evaluate and approve it. Step by step, maybe it's a logical and a practical solution to solve these issues. That's all my presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hope. Any questions from council to the delegates or to staff? Councilor Burke.
I have a question to staff. We can bring that back up again, that last PowerPoint. I know.
Hi.
It's gone.
It's disappeared.
Oh, literally.
There it is.
I'm going to take clean ship here.
And this is a question for staff, so we can go to the last. There we go. The win-win solution. I don't know if staff has an answer to this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a question for staff.
I'm asking our staff,
yeah.
So we can get some clarification here. I don't know if staff has an answer to this, but what's your first thought on this win-win solution that's in front of you?
And I'll look to Rita or Trevor. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski. Through you to Councillor Burke. I think staff's recommended solution is very similar to what Ms. Yang has put forward. The difference is staff believes that this property is suitable for a spiritual use, and we are in support of the land use. We are recommending a holding provision to address technical concerns, which is a tool commonly used throughout Waterloo, throughout Ontario, where the use is supported and the property is appropriate for the use, but there are technical considerations that warrant further review prior to enabling that use. Specifically addressing Ms. Yang's concern about traffic and the inability to, for example, make a left turn from Ursville Road into this property. If the property were developed in the future and the traffic study that staff's requiring suggested that a left turn from Ursville Road into the property was needed or warranted, the road allowance of Ursville Road is more than adequate to accommodate a widening to construct a left turn lane. Similarly, if you're traveling north, a right turn lane into the property. Those are the types of considerations that the traffic study would consider as part of the holding provision recommended by staff.
And to be clear, before any larger building could be built, those studies would have to be done.
Again, through you to Councillor Burke, that's correct. I think the number of studies that we are requiring through the holding provision would ultimately guide the development of the lands, you know, in terms of the size of the building and the layout of that future development.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none. Number 26, Lucy Gao. Welcome, Lucy. Oh, we just need the podium on there. Go. Two of us doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll let Julie do it.
Dear Mayor and councillors and the city staff and fellow residents, I'm here just to throw my comments after reading the staff report here for the council to consider before your vote. I have to say, through all walks of my life in Canada, I am self-immigrant, it's obvious, and I enjoy the diversity. Here, it's the application of rezoning. It has nothing to do with accommodation, diversity, it's the land use. So I just want to take the color off of the message somebody want to pass down to their next generation. It's not related. First, I want to say my appreciation, echo the planner, the residents hired. The specific in the staff report, the planning staff specifically allowed public input to the phase 2 in the process of removing the holding provisions. That's highly appreciated. But that won't stop, I oppose, because the right of appeal is not there. So by putting the input process, adding input, public input in the process, didn't have much power. Second, appreciate the professionalism dialogues and the meetings I had with the planning staff and the city mayor and our ward councillor, Brian Burke. Thank you very much. You are very approachable. So I come to my concerns. First is, can you go to the second slide? Yes. The staff report just stated the lands have direct access to original arterial road. No impacts to the original arterial road are anticipated. When I read this, I just found that didn't specifically this conclusion only applicable to phase 1. I mean, the existing building use won't impact much to the traffic. I have to agree, because they are only proposing about 25 people at a given time at maximum. But I'd like to see it ended with the phase 1, not to the phase 2 as well. That's my suggestion to the staff report to be precisely updated. Second, can you go to the next? Yes. To measure the traffic capacity on the Urbsville Road at this infected section between the Columbia Road to Laurelwood Drive, the staff report and the applicant all just concerned about the daily traffic volume. That is to measure the traffic during a 24-hour cycle. But to my understanding, at the usage side, I suggest the city to adopt more case-appropriate measures to measure the congestion intensity, to measure the vehicle traffic speeds decline during peak periods, such as the average traffic speed, average commute time. That may give a clearer picture to how much congestion will be increased by the proposed Phase 2 planning by the applicant. And third is like as stated by the staff report on the second page, like neither the official plan nor the zoning bylaw differentiates between the types of spiritual uses. Performance standards are the same for all types of spiritual uses. But I just can't help to point out, maybe that's proper to the common religion use purpose. But for this specific using patterns by the applicant, it's very intensive. It's 5 days per week, 5 times a day, before dawn to late night. And by the regulated time to attend the prayer centers, the traffic on the Urbsville Road will be much affected than you think for the normal spiritual use places, because this area, this section is not like a normal region road. It has a lot of entrance to access to the residence buildings along this road, and 4 or 3 schools are using this section as an essential way to get in and out at rush hour. It's already packed. Any significant left turning or at rush hour will just make this already parking lot like road a disaster. And on the page 27, can you go to next, of the staff report, I just want to point one of the applicants hired professional like Van Harden. They submit a sewage study analysis. In their study, they quoted that 65 people a day will use this praying center from 6:30 to 9:30 like. But according to the applicants saying, 25 people at a given time will use this center at first stage, I mean using the existing buildings. That is 125 people per day. And secondly, when they estimate the peak daily sewage flow estimate for the existing buildings to use, they considered that, again, they adopted the normal standard for the 65 people use at 520 liters per day. But for this specific applicant using patterns, there is a special requirement for the ablution. That is, I just researched the website from the scholars' research. They recommend, they concluded average 5 liters of running tap water per people at a time will be consumed. So for 125 people, plus the normal use by normal spiritual use is, and the 520 plus the 25 times 5 times 5 liter, it's 1,600 liter per day. So I just want to challenge this kind of credibility of the analysis. Finally, my conclusion. For the proposed future building, the public needed to exercise close scrutiny to the staff report and the applicant's study analysis. That's what I felt from reading the staff report and the applicant's submitted documents. Second, the public need proper right from, that's why I stress the public need proper right in this rezoning process, especially for the phase 2. Public input is already there, very appreciated, but the right to appeal, without right of appeal, it's kind of white paper. There's no power. Thank you. That ends my presentation.
Thank you very much. Now we have a one more registered delegate, and just sort of fair warning that we have 3 people who are unregistered delegates who have signed up to speak tonight, and that's all I have. Names are Amnon Filza, Nizar, and Karen. So if your name isn't on that list, it's sort of fair warning. It's last chance to register for tonight. And I think, is Lizzie still out in the at the table? There's a table right outside the door. Or for those of you downstairs who it's sort of last call for that. So next up is David Knight, guest 27.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, it's a privilege to speak this evening to the issue that you've been considering. I live on Butternut Avenue in the Columbia Forest neighborhood on the other side of Erbsville Road from the property in question. I fully support the recommendations of the staff report with regard to the impact of this zoning amendment on local traffic, on noise, and the natural environment. I would really like to underscore the argument made on page 8 of the report regarding spiritual use. The inclusion of spiritual uses within neighborhoods improves the sense of community and provides worshipers with convenient access to practicing their faith and interacting with their neighbors. You've heard a lot of people speak to this issue, and I want to underscore it because that conviction is under assault in all kinds of places in the world. And I think I'm very proud to live in a community that upholds that conviction, that sees real value in the spiritual dimension of communities and also in the diversity of those communities. I believe that an active spiritual presence by people of prayer and of peace, such as the Muslim Association proposes in our community, would enrich us all. By profession, I am a Christian pastor, although recently retired. And although I practice my faith somewhat differently from my Muslim neighbors, there is a principle in our tradition known as the Golden Rule, which recommends that we do to others what we would want them to do to us. There is great wisdom and humility and civility to be gained by imagining how we might wish to be treated in a similar situation. I believe that a lot of people yearn to pray. Some call it meditation, some are quieted by a walk in the woods or by yoga, some prefer to sit in coffee shops listening to music or talking with friends. Islam calls its faithful to prayers 5 times a day, whether alone at home or with fellow believers at a prayer center. A community like ours that respects diversity needs to practice generosity in recognizing the spiritual aspirations and practices of our neighbors who may differ from our own. And we need to extend tolerance regarding the various settings where healthy spirituality can be practiced and sustained. That is why I heartily endorse the granting of this amendment to the zoning and why I would welcome a practicing Muslim prayer community in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, let's see here. We have delegates who have signed up yet tonight, and they will be each getting 5 minutes. First up is Amna El Shashat and Filsa Nazir. Welcome, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Before I begin, I would just like to quote from the City of Waterloo's strategic plan, which includes one of its goals as fostering inclusivity and ensuring that we build a diverse community where every religious group has a sense of belonging. So while we will try our best to keep our statement within the stated restrictions, or at least within 3 strikes, we would just like to say, and as a civil engineering training, I think I can say with a certain level of confidence that planning is not just about traffic and environmental concerns. Planning is about our vision for the kind of community we want to build and the kind of city we want to live in. As such, faith and religion are just as much planning matters as they are matters which we discuss in our churches and our mosques.
So, spiritual spaces such as churches, synagogues, temples, and mosques have served as a focal point for community building. As youths who are growing up in a diverse environment, such as Waterloo, our mosques serve as a connection to our faith, our parents, our grandparents, our neighbors, and to the larger Waterloo community. It is a space for us to grow and develop skills through which we can contribute to the larger KW community, and the lack of such a space would mean that many youth would have no connection to their faith, their community, and as such would hinder their growth, as well as their potential. As many of us are aware, we are living in a political climate which is increasingly hostile to minorities and anyone perceived to be different. While we see the extremes of these attitudes in our southern neighbors, Waterloo region is not immune to these hostilities or differences.
But we need to keep to planning matters
Of
as
course.
Government of Ontario.
Strike
so
number one.
Let's look at the Government of Ontario Planning Act for guidance on this. Which doesn't get as much airplay as the rest of the things, but anyway.
We'll skip through.
Okay.
I mean, of course, we are all here at 9 p.m. because we care about planning so much. But we have heard from countless planners, consultants, engineers, as well as city staff that this rezoning application should be approved because it meets the requirements of a typical zoning application. And so why are we still here? Why are 30 people, as well as like countless members of the Muslim community, forced to stand up here and plea for this mosque, which is a straightforward, simple rezoning application? And if we were standing here discussing a church instead of a mosque today, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We're all aware of this. Like, this is the unspoken elephant in the room, which for some reason we're not allowed to discuss. But to reiterate, the City of Waterloo's strategic plan includes that one of its goals is to foster inclusivity and ensure that we would build a diverse community where every religious group has a sense of belonging. Approving this application would not just mean another religious center. It would determine the future of the kind of city we hope to build. As youth, it would be a reminder for us that the city we have always called home acknowledges us as an integral part of this community and is committed to meeting our needs. It would mean that regardless of the hostile political climate we may see in the media and in the rest of the world, Waterloo region chooses to stand in solidarity with all of their community members while celebrating our differences. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Good conversion. Delegate number 30, Nizar Ahmed. You have 5 minutes.
Bonsoir. Good evening,
Bonsoir.
Mayor Jaworski, City Councillor, and my friends. My name is Nizar Ahmed. I immigrated to Montreal, Canada, 1990. I didn't have good jobs, so I moved to USA. I worked New York, California, Midwest. My daughter was born in Indianapolis. Then 2008, I got my dream job at BlackBerry, but that didn't last long. I got laid off. I worked London, Mississauga, long commute, GTA, and during my weekend and when I have some time, I do lots of activities like sports, fishing, gardening. I'm a co-coordinator of KW Urban Harvester. I have 6 plots around Waterloo area. I work with City of Waterloo, region of Waterloo. So if this ICW application is approved, I will try to coordinate with the Lower Lood Community Center and City of Waterloo to do some gardening in that property. I hope that will, good for environment and green activities. And regarding the traffic, I just wanted to make a few points. I think we have 5 pray, and during first rush hour, I would say between 7 and 12, there is no pray at all. So nobody goes to the center or mosque. And the second like rush hour, I would say between 3 and 6 or 7. Most of the people is at work, so very few people will be going there. Mostly people who stay at home or work from home. Thank you. I support this application.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your offer to plant there. Delegate number 31, another one's registered after that. Karen Sion. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Mayor Jaworski. It's so great when your delegate number matches your age. It's perfect.
Hexadecimal.
There you go.
We know each other. It's
and you're older than I am, so let's just keep that in mind. Oh boy. So Mayor Jaworski, you and I have lived in Waterloo for a very long time, and on that note, neither of us were born here. You came from a small rural town in Ontario, and I came from Saskatchewan, because we knew what the University of Waterloo and what this city would mean to us, what offered us, and what would mean to us for our futures. Mayor Jaworski, you and I have both raised our families on the west side of Waterloo. Our children walked the same streets, went to the same schools, played with the same kids. You and I know that the west side of Waterloo is a great place to live. But that greatness is not an accident. It took a great deal of hard work to build a wonderful neighborhood. It takes great schools with dedicated teachers and school councils. It took great planning of the holistic, social, cultural, healthy community, neighborhoody kind of planning that is reflected in the Planning Act, and that we have worked tirelessly to see come to life on the west side of Waterloo. It takes neighborhood associations represented here tonight willing to work tirelessly to plan events, build parks, and advocate for their residents. It takes citizens who work together to reach out, to extend a hand, to welcome their neighbors. As one of the original citizens of Laurelwood, I had the pleasure of being part of those good things. Schools, parks, playgrounds, neighborhood associations, gazebos, community fairs, and festivals as they took root. I watched our neighborhood change over the years, becoming one of the most diverse communities in the city. In my mind, that diversity is part of our success. As a city councilor, I had the enormous pleasure of cutting a ribbon on a public library, YMCA building in this neighborhood, built because we knew that the diverse families of Laurelwood and the entire west side would be strengthened by the services that this great facility offers. I have to admit that I have found much of this community conversation very disturbing, because it paints the picture of a divided Laurelwood, which is the polar opposite of what we have worked so hard for over 20 years. At this point, I would like to thank the Laurelwood Neighborhood Association, particularly I'd like to thank Lorraine for being here tonight, for their commitment to building a healthy and welcoming community. I'd also like to thank my long-term neighbors and friends for standing tall in the midst of a difficult time. I'd also like to thank Councillor Burke for being a strong and positive voice in this debate, because I know it's not always easy to be that voice. And I have total faith in this council to do the right thing. Approval of this proposal based on the very sound and evidence-based planning case that has been prepared and presented by your staff and by the proponent. But Mayor Jaworski, that's when the real work begins. Because although we are speaking about technical planning issues tonight, the underlying tensions will not magically disappear. Because then it's time to work together, to gather our neighbors together, and to work hard in order to build a bridge to a stronger future for the west side of Waterloo and our entire city. Thank you.
Thank you, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
And final delegate I have here, delegate number 32, Allison Kathleen.
Good evening, everyone. I was not intending at all to speak tonight. I share the inclusive, supportive sentiments of those supporters before me. I'm actually a Kitchener resident, but grew up here in Waterloo from an age that I don't even remember what happened around me, as young as 2. I'm a Waterloo business owner and have students who come to me from many different communities, and I enjoy interacting with all of them. The planning issue is what we're talking about, so I will stick to that, Mayor Dave. One of the things that was mentioned is the number of prayers happening per day. And yes, the Muslim community does pray up to 5 times per day. Something that was neglected to be mentioned that I've learned through my Muslim friends is that not everybody is going to a prayer center in the middle of the day. They work. So they pray in their place of work, and they take that time out. As one of the younger gentlemen mentioned during the day at school, he had a classroom that was provided to him to pray. That's the kind of community that we need to have throughout the city, not just in an inclusive school and so forth. The water usage, I feel the numbers that were given seem quite inflated, as from the Muslim culture, they really work on an idea and a concept of conservation, and the whole idea of Ramadan and fasting and kind of renewing yourself. The community impact. We mentioned schools and the amount of traffic that happens within the neighborhood. Something to keep in mind, the Muslim families are from that neighborhood. That's why they're asking for a prayer center within their neighborhood so they don't have to travel as far for their place of worship. So those cars are already on the road. They're already on the road going to their local schools. They're already on the road going to work, traveling, because they have these things they need to get to already. So I think that the numbers aren't necessarily, again, the estimated numbers that would be traveling. Do I think it would be good to look at a sidewalk on that road? Absolutely, but that's for the safety of the community, and I don't think that that should be any way, shape, or sound of whether it be a certain community or a building being erected. It's a matter of community safety. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions? None from the side here? No? Okay. That's it. That is all. I don't see any excitement. We have, that's it. That being our last delegation, this formal public meeting is concluded and the application is now open to council for a motion and debate. Any thoughts on anything here? Any questions from council? Any comments? Let's see, moved by Councillor Burke, the recommendation. Councillor Henry seconds it. Discussion at this point. Councillor Willie.
Well, congratulations to you, Mayor, for keeping the elephant in the room quiet tonight. It was so interesting to be in this room tonight with so many faith leaders for hours, and yet we never talked religion. But you didn't have to talk religion. You just had to be here. And you were, and that's all good.
Well, I think, I think I have a few things to say. I think thanks, regardless of the outcome of the vote, which was imminent. Rita, thank you very much for all your help through all this. Long time coming, and certainly appreciated by all members of council, I know that, and many, many members of the dozens, hundreds of members of the public. Support from Trevor and Joel and Cam, thank you for that. The groups who spoke here tonight and gained together as groups. Thank you to all the people in the lobby. Hello to all those down in the lobby and those watching online. Thank you for the media for giving this the attention it deserves. Just so you know, the seats are always open here. We have lots of things that are welcome and deserving of attention in the future. You're welcome to come back. The delegates who spoke here tonight, okay, again, my apologies. I really need to keep things on track, as Councillor Whaley mentioned. Really wanted to keep it to the planning matters. You did have very valuable things to contribute outside of this, but I'm sorry I did have to cut you off, and some of those things will be valuable going forward. All the attendees for showing respect throughout this night, and regardless of our decision here tonight, again, no booing, no applauding. That's not something we do here in the council chamber. We make valued decisions and we move on from there. We really used a lens of good planning tonight, or throughout this process over 2 years, and or many years. And one thing I think that we find frustrating as council members is formal public meetings. Until a formal public meeting comes, we can't express our opinion, and we have to hold back and just stick to facts and stuff like that. And now the formal public meeting is concluded. And with that, any further comments? Councillor Henry?
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly want to extend my appreciation to staff, to the applicant and their consultants, to the community, for all the perspectives that have been shared throughout this process. It's Conflict is not the easiest thing to deal with in a community, but through conflict comes dialogue, and through dialogue can come understanding, and through all of that can come the progress that I think that we seek. And I do hope that that is something that many of us have found through this process to date, and that many of us will find as we move forward from this date. I appreciate, though the mayor has kept people focused in an effort to make sure nobody strayed into places that might cause them trouble, and I know that's helpful. That I appreciated a lot of the comments tonight, many that were started, because it's absolutely true that planning is political. It's one of the things that you sit down in Planning 101 and talk about and listen to and try to understand. And it is political precisely because it is about the allocation of resources, who gets to do what, where, and how we find an appropriate balance between conflicting needs and conflicting purposes in a world of limited resources and limited space and possibility. And that's infused in our official plan. There's a reason that the official plan contemplates spiritual uses in low-density neighborhoods, and staff spoke to that very eloquently in their report. I won't go there. It's there for people to read and have already quoted tonight. So those kinds of values, the kinds of moral values and political values that we feel from our community, that we express through our planning framework, is the lens through which we view otherwise very technical planning applications that have come before us. And this, on that face, is a very simple planning matter. It is relatively straightforward for the use that's being asked for today, and the very valid concerns and questions that people had about unknown change in the future, planning staff have provided, in my view, a very appropriate framework for us to deal with those very technical concerns, because they have technical solutions. The bigger question of what kind of community we want to be and how we want to plan for that, we've dealt with. And the only thing before us is technically, how do we get there, and does what's before us conform, and is it allowed to proceed to find that balance that we've already decided writ large we want to have in our community. So I thank everybody for participating in this process, for understanding some of the constraints that we all face through these processes, including our inability to express comments like you hear from us today earlier in the process. We all, I know, had so much to feel and to say, and I've been waiting to be able to feel it and say it out loud in front of a community that tonight I could not be prouder of, in terms of listening, in terms of looking, and in terms of seeing the Waterloo that I know and I feel in my bones, visually in front of us and spiritually in front of us tonight. So I am a very proud councillor and community leader of this community, if only because I know I am surrounded by so many others.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Councillor Burke, the final word goes to you.
I want to echo what Councillor Henry said about the people who came here to speak tonight. You were respectful. You kept it as much as you could on planning. And I recognize the difficulty of that, because while we may have kept the elephant out of this room, we know that the elephant is in a bigger room. And we know that we need to be aware of that. And there have been a lot of hurtful things said in the last little while, not here, thank goodness, tonight, and written, and we know that exists out there. We're not naive, and but we do understand, as Karen rightfully pointed out, there's a lot of work to be done, and it starts with each of us, and that's always where it starts. Let's have at it.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, that carries unanimously. But in the meantime, we're going to enact some bylaws. Who wants to enact them? Councillor Councillor Durrell?
Roll it.
Councillor Burke? All those in favor? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Whaley? Councillor Veith? All those in favor? Councillor Burke, you're not going? Okay. Thank you all.